Hold on. I think we're live. Yeah, we're live. What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American, back in with a new live stream. We are back with another reaction to 2016 presidential debates. Yep, we are back with another one of these. So many of you wanted me to react to this second primary debate for 2016's Republican primary. And I haven't looked at it yet, but I can already tell it's 3 hours long. Oh gosh. So yeah, I hope everyone's having a phenomenal day, night, evening, wherever you are in the world. And yeah, so this is a 2016 debate, so we're gonna see some Trump. I would assume so. Of course, before we continue, I hope you enjoy these type of videos or live streams. If you do, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the Twitter accounts in the description down below. Guys, go follow Real American follow Real American Politics on Twitter. Gosh, I almost had like a seizure there, but yeah, go follow Real American Politics on Twitter. It's a great Twitter account everyone should follow. And of course, join the channel today. I don't think I'd do much more, and I think we can start. So yeah, again, if you want super chats or questions asked, send a super chat. That's the best way to get a question asked, especially for a 3-hour debate. Excuse me. I think CNN has a version which is much better quality. Well, we just gotta see. We gotta see. Let me check. So again, like usual, if you got questions, make sure to send a super chat. But yeah, I'll check to see if CNN 2015 GOP debate. Let's see. If they have one, that'll be nice, but I doubt it. Hopefully. Doesn't look like it. So we're gonna be stuck with this one. Okay. Fun. Thoughts on the Barry Goldwater? What? He's talking about Barry Goldwater? I mean, he's alright, but kind of overrated. What do you think of right-wing victories in Spain, Netherlands, and Turkey? I heard some people like Spain conservatives did pretty good. I see that Turkey, he somehow held on. I don't know how, but I mean, I thought he was going to lose. The president of Turkey, after years of winning, I thought he was done, but he somehow held on. But yeah, so this is a lower quality video, so sorry about that. Don't know what I could say. And yeah, this is a good one to react to. Yeah, I heard this is a pretty funny one. Is this the one that like Trump like calls Rand Paul ugly? This should be a fun one. This should be very fun. So again, hope everybody enjoys. We're going to do like live commentary. I don't know if we're going to watch all 3 hours. Why is this 3 hours long? Isn't the presidential debates usually like an hour and a half? All right, let's do this. Oh gosh. And I'm going to probably skip the first part because of the intro music. So I'm just going to skip ahead.
Respond if you have.
Oh, yeah.
Let's begin.
There we go.
I'd like to invite each candidate to take 30 seconds to introduce him or herself to our audience. First to you, Senator Paul.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm an eye surgeon from Bowling Green, Kentucky. My wife, Kelly, and I have been married for nearly 25 years, and I spend my days defending the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I think there's nothing more important than understanding that the Constitution restrains government, not the people.
Cringe.
Thank you.
Bro, that was it? Oh, I know Rand Paul's a libertarian, but bro, that was your opening statement? Why? Of all things you could have said, you did that? That was just bad. That was a really bad opening statement.
I'm Mike Huckabee. I'm delighted to be on this stage with some remarkable fellow Republicans.
My man.
None of us are a self-professed socialist. None of us on this stage are under investigation for the FBI because we destroyed government records or because we leaked secrets. I know that there are some in the Wall Street to Washington axis of power who speak of all of us contemptuously. But I'm here to say that I think we are, in fact, the A-team. We have some remarkable people. And in fact, not only are we the A-team, we even have our own Mr. T, who doesn't mind saying about others, you're a fool. And I'm delighted to be here with all of these guys and would put any of them in an administration that I led. Thank you very much.
I like Huckabee. He's always been one of my favorites.
Thank you. My name is Marco Rubio. I'm from Florida. My wife Jeanette and I are the proud parent. We've been married 17 years and we're the proud parents of 4 children, 2 of whom were able to join us here this evening. I'm honored to be here at the Reagan Library, at a place that honors the legacy of a man who inspired not just my interest in public service, but also our love for country. And I'm also aware that California has a drought, and so that's why I made sure I brought my own water.
That is cringe. What was that? Rubio, you've gotten better, but what the hell was that? Oh my gosh. That was Rubio back then? I completely forgot how cringe he was. Just awkward. It reminds me a lot of DeSantis, but yeah, it just seemed very bizarre. Very bizarre.
I'm Ted Cruz. I'm the son of an Irish-Italian mom and a Cuban immigrant dad who fled oppression and came to America seeking freedom.
Oh gosh, Ted Cruz. This was before his beard, so he's not as, well, supposedly based as in the future, but, you know, oh gosh, he looks so weird without the beard. Riley the Mini donated for 5. If Texas is going to stay red, we need Hispanics to keep trending right. What % do you think our ceiling is with Hispanics in Texas? I think it really depends. I mean, wasn't there like a poll that showed Republicans are like 48% in Texas with them? But like doing pretty bad with whites? Or was that something else? I swore there was a poll that showed Republicans like doing better with Hispanics in some areas. But yeah. It really it depends. Like, if we get through like Trump's immigration plan, which I think's possible, especially with the court being as conservative as it is, I think it's possible you get a majority. Let's see here. Why are these opening lines so cringe? I'm waiting for Trump. I want to see what Trump's is, but this is bad so far.
I'm a husband to my best friend Heidi, who's here tonight. I'm a dad to 2 little girls who are the loves of my life, Caroline and Catherine. If you're fed up with Washington, if you're looking for someone to stand up to career politicians in both parties, I'm the only one on this stage who has done that over and over again. And if we stand together, we can bring America back.
Hi, I'm Ben Carson.
Nobody applauded that. Not a single applause from that. Oh, man.
Retired pediatric neurosurgeon.
Yeah, I'll
I'm
stop.
here with
I'll
my
stop
wife
pausing.
Candy of 40 years and 2 of my sons and their wives. I stress the pediatric part of my career because the reason that I've gotten involved in this race is because I'm very concerned about the future of our children. And the direction of our country is one that does not portend well unless we, the people, intervene and retake our rightful place at the pinnacle. And I just want to make it clear that I'm grateful to be here with all of you again and welcome the addition of Carly Fiorina as well.
That was good. I like Carson.
I'm Donald Trump.
Yeah!
I wrote The Art of the Deal. I say not in a braggadocious way. I've made billions and billions of dollars dealing with people all over the world, and I want to put whatever that talent is to work for this country. So we have great trade deals. We make our country rich again. We make it great again. We build up our military. We take care of our vets. We get rid of Obamacare. And we have a great life all together. Thank you. Thank you.
Loudest applause so far. But yeah, Ben Carson's fine. But, oh God, Jeb.
I'm Jeb Bush, and I believe America is on the verge of its greatest century, and I'm ready to lead. I'm a committed conservative reformer that cut taxes, that balanced budgets, that took on the special interests in Florida, and we won. I look forward to talking tonight about how we can fix a broken Washington, D.C., and create an environment where people can rise up again in this great country. Thank you.
my gosh. It's Jeb. And I got a super chat here. None of your business for 5. If Texas is ever in danger of going blue, do you think Texas would ever merge with Oklahoma or Arkansas, or possibly split their electoral votes like Nebraska by congressional district? I think the last one's more realistic, just for the simple fact that I doubt they would ever merge with a different state. When was the last time it's ever happened? Like a state merge with a different one? Oh god, the Jeb chats are out. Oh gosh. But yeah, Jeb, that was... Like, you're better than your brother, but that was bad. That was boring.
Good evening. I'm Scott Walker, and Tonette and I want to thank Mrs. Reagan
Okay,
and the
Governor.
Reagan Library for hosting us. You see, in my lifetime, the greatest president was a governor from California. Ronald Reagan knew how to go big and go bold. He understood the essence of moving this country forward, and that's what I did when I took on the status quo in my state and the Washington-based special interest. Now more than ever, America needs a leader who will go big and bold again, someone who's been tested. I'm ready to be that leader. Thank you.
God, Scott Walker blew it. He absolutely blew it.
Good evening.
What was that
My story, from secretary to CEO, is only possible in this nation and proves that every one of us has potential. My husband, Frank, of 30 years, started out driving a tow truck for a family-owned auto body shop. We have come to a pivotal point in our nation's history where this nation's possibilities and potential are being crushed by a government grown so big, so powerful, so inept, so corrupt, and a political class that refuses to do anything about it. I am prepared to lead the resurgence of this great nation.
Gosh, that was awful. And people applauded that? Oh, no, not
I'm
this
John
guy.
Kasich, the governor of Ohio. Emma and Reese, my children, and Karen, love you girls. Thanks for watching tonight. By the way, I think I actually flew on this plane with Ronald Reagan when I was a congressman.
Oh,
and his
go
goals
away.
and mine really pretty much the same. Lift Americans, unify, give hope, grow America, and restore it is to that great shining city on a hill. Yes, he was a great one, and I learned much from watching him. The most important thing, hope to Americans, unify, lift everyone in America.
I hate the case of needs to go away. Oh, no.
Hi, my name is Chris Christie, and I'd like you to take the camera off me and put it on the audience, because I'd like to ask all of you, how many of you, raise your hand, believe that in today's Barack Obama America, your children will have a better life than you've had? You see, that's why I'm running for president, because leadership is not about me, it's about our country. And what we talk about tonight is not about us, it's about the people in the audience tonight. Because in 7 short years, this president has stripped away their trust and their faith and their belief that the next generation will have a better life. He's stolen that from us, and when I'm president, I'm going to take it back.
Who's better, Kasich or DeWine? He's at least pro-life.
Thank you, one and all, for being here. There are many important policy
There's
issues
only
facing
one
our
person
nation.
monitoring
We're going to get
this?
to
Oh,
many of them
gosh.
tonight, but I do want to start off with some current events in the news and also some of the comments that candidates have recently made on the campaign trail. Ms. Fiorina, I want to start with you. Fellow Republican candidate and Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal has suggested that your party's frontrunner, Mr. Donald Trump, would be dangerous as president. He said he wouldn't want, quote, such a hothead with his finger on the nuclear codes. You as well have raised concerns about Mr. Trump's temperament. You've dismissed him as an entertainer. Would you feel comfortable with Donald Trump's finger on the nuclear codes?
You know, I think Mr. Trump is a wonderful entertainer. He's been terrific at that business. I also think that one of the benefits of a presidential campaign is the character and capability, judgment and temperament of every single one of us is revealed.
She literally looks
over
like Hillary
time
Clinton.
And under pressure. All of us will be revealed over time and under pressure. I look forward to a long race.
You didn't answer my question. Would you feel comfortable with Donald Trump's finger on the nuclear codes? It's an issue that one of your fellow candidates has raised.
That's not for me to answer. It is for the voters of this country to answer. And
Just
I have a lot
answer
of
the
faith
question,
in the common
yes or
sense
no.
and good judgment of the voters of the United States of America.
Mr. Trump?
Well, first of all, Rand Paul shouldn't even be on this stage. He's number 11. He's got 1% in the polls, and how he got up here, there's far too many people. Anyway, As far as temperament, and we all know that, as far as temperament, I think I have a great temperament. I built a phenomenal business with incredible, iconic assets, one of the really, truly great real estate businesses. And I may be an entertainer because I've had tremendous success with #1 bestsellers all over the place, with The Apprentice and everything else I've done. But I will tell you this, what I am far and away greater than an entertainer is a businessman. And that's the kind of mindset this country needs to bring it back. Because we owe $19 trillion right now, $19 trillion. And you need this kind of thinking to bring our country back. And believe me, my temperament is very good, very calm, but we will be respected outside of this country.
Yeah.
We are not respected now.
This is the rhetoric that won Trump 2016. Oh, here we go.
I kind of have to laugh when I think, sounds like a non-sequitur. He was asked whether or not he would be capable and it would be in good hands to be in charge of the nuclear weapons, and all of a sudden there's a sideways attack at me. I think that really goes to the judgment. Do we want someone with that kind of character, that kind of careless language to be negotiating with Putin? Do we want someone like that to be negotiating with Iran? I think really there's a sophomoric quality that is entertaining about Mr. Trump. But I am worried. I'm very concerned about having him in charge of the nuclear weapons, because I think his response, his visceral response to attack people on their appearance, short, tall, fat, ugly. My goodness, that happened in junior high. Are we not way above that? Would we not all be worried to have someone like that in charge of the nuclear arsenal?
Mr. Trump.
Here we go.
I never attacked him on his look, and believe me, there's plenty of subject matter right there. That I can tell you.
I want to give Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump, I want to give you another chance. Mr. Trump, I want to give you a chance to respond to something.
We're not even 15 minutes in, and we already got a legendary quote. Oh, man. This is the Trump that wins easily. Man. This is... Okay, back to the video.
Thing that your rival to your left, Governor Bush, said. Governor Bush told me last week, when I read him the quote from Governor Jindal, that he agrees you're not a serious candidate. Tell Governor Bush why you are a serious candidate and what your qualifications are to be commander-in-chief.
I've actually been in politics all my life, although I've been on that side as opposed to this side. I'm now a politician for about 3 months. Obviously, I'm doing pretty well. I'm #1 in every polls by a lot. But the qualification is that I've dealt with people all over the world, been successful all over the world. Everything I've done virtually has been a tremendous success. When markets changed, when things turned, I heard Governor Pataki, who, by the way, was a failed governor in New York, a very seriously failed. He wouldn't be elected dog catcher right now. I heard what he had to say. And I will tell you this. Atlantic City, I made a tremendous amount of money in Atlantic City. I left 7 years ago. I've gotten great credit for my timing, and that's what I'm all about. I'm a businessman, did really well, and Jeb, what I want to do is put that ability into this country to make our country rich again. And I can do that, and I'm not sure that anybody else in the group will be able to do that.
Governor Bush, would you be comfortable with Donald Trump's finger on the nuclear codes?
I think the voters will make that determination, but what I know to be true
Just answer the
is
question.
that the next president of the United States is going to have to fix an extraordinarily difficult situation. This administration, with President Obama and Hillary Clinton, has created insecurity, the likes of which we never would have imagined. There's not a place in the world where we're better off today than 6.5 years ago. And that requires a steadiness. That requires an understanding of how the world works. That requires an understanding and appreciation of American leadership in the world. You can't just, talk about this stuff and insult leaders around the world and expect a good result. You have to do this with a steady hand, and I believe I have those skills.
Just answer the question.
This is what's wrong with this debate. We're not talking about real issues. And Mr. Trump, we don't need an apprentice in the White House.
Oh, go
We don't need an apprentice in the White House. We have one right now. He told us all the things we wanted to hear back in 2008. We don't know who you are or where you're going. We need someone who can actually get the job done.
Walker,
you talked about business.
You were good governor, but that was awful.
In Wisconsin, you're losing $2.2 billion right now.
You're using
I would do so much better than that.
Mr. Trump, you're using the talking points of the Democrats, and as we all know, that
I'm using
failed
facts.
3 times.
That's a moment that killed Scott Walker's campaign. That single-handedly sunk it. This is what happens when you listen to certain people. That just That sucks. He was a good governor, but man.
In 4.5 years when I got elected, because it is working. We balanced the budget. You want to talk about balanced budget?
I like Scott Walker, but that was
awful. You took 4 major
awful.
projects into bankruptcy over and over and over again. You can't take America into bankruptcy. That's what's wrong with the politicians in Washington right now. They think we can take a country into bankruptcy.
Every major business leader has used I never went bankrupt, by the way, as you know, everybody knows. But out of hundreds of companies, hundreds of deals, I've used the law 4 times, made...
All right, we got a super chat. VW Bear for $4.50. I was a never Bush. I could see the argument for it.
A tremendous thing. I'm in business. I did a very good job. But I will say this, and people are very, very impressed with what I've done, the business people. But when the folks of Iowa found out the true facts of the job that you've done in Wisconsin, all of a sudden you tubed. He was number 1. Now he's number 6 or 7 in the poll. So, look, we brought it out. You were supposed to make $1 billion in the state. You lost 2.2. You have right now a huge budget deficit. That's not a Democratic point. That's a point. That's a fact. And when the people of Iowa found that out, I went to number 1, and you went down the tubes.
Governor Walker?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take this on. Because this is an issue that's important in this race. Just because he says it doesn't make it true. The facts are the facts. We balanced a $3.6 billion budget deficit. We did it by cutting taxes $4.7 billion.
I completely forgot how
working
bad
families,
Walker is at debating.
family farmers, small business owners, and senior citizens. And it's about time people in America stand up and take note of this. If you want someone who can actually take on the special interest of Washington, which you yourself just said you were part of, using the system, we need somebody who's going to stand up and fight for average Americans to put them back in charge of the government. I'm the one who's taking that on. I'll do that as your next president.
Let's move on.
Jake,
A phenomenon
Jake,
going on in the race right now is that the political... Okay, Governor Kasich, go ahead.
Listen, you know, if I were sitting at home and watching this back and forth, I'd be inclined to turn it off. I mean, people at home want to know, across this country, they want to know what we're going to do to fix this place. How we're going
God, we could just like pause his part. We got a super chat. Duster Carter for 2. Do you think Scott Walker ever get a governor for Wisconsin again? No. He's never running again for anything.
We have a lot of issues coming up,
But
sir.
wait a minute, with a lot of ad hominem. Now, I know that it may be buzzing out there, but I think it's important we get to the issues, because that's
We are
what the
getting to
people
the issues,
want,
sir.
and
Thank
they don't
you.
want all
You're
this
the one
fight.
talking. I hate Kasich
A phenomenon
so much.
going on in this race is that the political outsiders in the race, Dr. Carson, Donald Trump, Carly Fiorina, all together have majority support in the polls. Governor Christie, I want to ask you about something that Dr. Carson said the other day. Dr. Carson said campaigning is easier for him because he's not a politician. He can just tell the truth, therefore, while politicians, quote, have their finger in the air to see and do what is politically expedient. Governor Christie, tell Dr. Carson, is that a fair description of you?
Well, I know Ben doesn't think that about me. I'm sure he was talking about one of the other guys, not me. And as far as being an outsider is concerned, let me tell you this, Jake. I am a Republican in New Jersey. I wake up every morning as an outsider. I wake up every morning with a Democratic legislature who's trying to beat my head in and fight me because I'm trying to bring conservative change to a state that needed it desperately. And so everyone can talk up here
This is
about
why
the
Chris
credentials,
Christie
but the
was, like,
bottom
seen
line
as a
is
front
every
runner
morning
before.
I get up, I vetoed 400 bills from a crazy liberal Democratic legislature. Not one of them has been overridden. I vetoed more tax increases than any governor in American history, according to Americans for Tax Reform. What folks want in this country is somebody to go down there and get the job done. And that's exactly what I'll do. So I know this much, that what the American people want to hire right now is somebody who believes in them and believes that they are the ones who can fix our country. I will be the vessel through which they can fix this country. But it's not about me. It's about all of you and getting this government off your back and out of your way and letting you succeed. So I know that Ben wasn't talking
Well, let's
about me.
find out.
Look at him
Thank you.
smiling at me right now. I know Ben didn't mean it about me.
Thank you, Governor Christie.
One of these other guys, I'm sure.
Dr. Carson, who were you thinking about on this stage when you said that? And
be honest, Ben.
And
be
more
honest.
broadly, is experience in government not important for a president to have?
Typically, politicians do things that are politically expedient, and they are looking for whatever their particular goal is.
He's so good on the
That
issues,
is
but I
not
forgot how
the
boring he
reason
is.
that I
That's
have
the
gotten
problem with
into this
Ben
thing.
Carson.
I am extraordinarily concerned about the direction of this country, the divisiveness that is going on, the fiscal irresponsibility, the failure to take a leadership position in the world, all of those things will lead to a situation where the next generation will not have a chance that we've had now. So I don't want to really get into describing who's a politician and who's not a politician.
Carson.
But I think the people have kind of made that decision for themselves already and will continue to do so as time goes on.
Thank you, Dr. Carson.
That's a problem with Carson.
Jake, I'll tell you why people are supporting outsiders.
Oh, go away.
It's because you know what happens if someone's been in a system their whole life? They don't know how broken the system is. A fish swims in water, it doesn't know it's water. It's not that politicians are bad people. It's that they've been in that system forever. The truth is 75% of the American people think the government is corrupt. 82% of the American people think these problems that have festered for 50 years in some cases, 25 years, and in other cases, the border's been insecure for 25 years. 307,000 veterans have died waiting for health care. These things have gone on for so long because no one will challenge the status quo. You know what a leader does? They challenge the
Hillary
status
Clinton,
quo.
aka
They
Carly
solve problems
Fiorina.
that have festered for a long time, and they produce
She
results.
literally
That is what
looks
my
like
whole
Hillary
life has
Clinton.
been about. People know
Fiona,
this is
she's the
about
one
far
that,
more than
Ted Cruz
replacing
picked
a
as
D
her
Thank you.
with an R. This is about changing the system.
Thank you, Ms. Fiorina. Governor Bush. In addition to the fact that he's an outsider, one of the reasons Mr. Trump is a frontrunner, Republican voters say, is because they like the fact that he is not bought and paid for by wealthy donors. Mr. Trump has repeatedly said that the $100 million you've raised for your campaign makes you a puppet for your donors. Are you?
No, absolutely not. People are supporting me because I...
Wait, we got a super chat. Duster Carter for 2. What kind of healthcare plan should Republicans push? Honestly, that's like such a broad question I can't really answer, but start with Rand Paul's healthcare plan. It's a good start. That is a really good start.
I have a proven record of conservative leadership where I cut taxes $19 billion over 8 years. We shrunk the state government workforce. We created a climate that led the nation in job growth 7 out of 8 years. We were one of 2 states to go to AAA bond rating. People know that we need principle-centered leadership, a disruptor to go to Washington, D.C. The one guy that had some special interest that I know of that tried to get me to change my views on something that was generous and gave me money was Donald Trump. He wanted casino gambling in Florida.
I didn't want
Yes, you did.
Totally false.
You wanted it, and you didn't get it because I was
it.
opposed to casino gambling before,
promise I would've gotten
during,
it.
and after. And that's not, I'm not going to be bought by anybody.
I promise, if I wanted it, I would have gotten it.
No way, man.
Believe me.
Nope.
I know my people.
Not even possible.
I know my people.
Oh, man.
Is there anything else you want to say about this?
No, I just will tell you that, Jeb made the statement. I'm not only referring to him. A lot of money was raised by a lot of different people that are standing up here.
Please
and
clap.
the donors, the special interests, the lobbyists have very strong power over these people. I'm spending all of my money. I'm not getting any. I turned down so much. I could have right now from special interests and donors, I could have double and triple what he's got. I've turned it down. I've turned down last week $5 million from somebody. So I will tell you, I understand the game. I've been on the other side all of my life, and they have a lot of control over our politicians. And I don't say that favorably, and I'm not sure if there's another system, but I say this, I am not accepting any money from anybody. Nobody has control of me other than the people of this country. I'm going to do the right thing.
Man, I love
according to
this Trump.
To what you said on one of the talk shows, you got Hillary Clinton to go to your wedding because
true.
you gave her
That's
money.
true.
Maybe it works for Hillary Clinton. it doesn't work
Jeff,
for anybody on
Jeff,
this stage.
I was a businessman. I got along with Clinton. I got along with everybody.
Yeah.
That was my job, to get along with people.
But the
I didn't
simple
want
fact is-
excuse me, 1 second.
No.
I
The
didn't
simple
want to.
fact is,
Jeff,
Donald,
oh,
you
good.
cannot take-
more energy tonight. I like
No.
that.
I was asked the question.
I didn't want. It was my obligation as
This
a
is
businessman
Trump
to my
2024
family,
if he
to my
brings us
company, to
back.
my employees, to get along with all politicians. I got along with all of them, and I did a damn good job in doing it. Go ahead.
So,
Okay, we got a super chat. Anti-Piracy League for 2. Trump and Jeb are both supposedly 6'3", by the way. I think Trump's 6'2", I thought. And Jeb's like 6'3".
he supports Pelosi. He supports Schumer. He supports Clinton.
Got along with everybody.
And when he asked Florida to have casino gambling. We said no.
Wrong.
We said no, and that's the simple fact. The simple
don't
fact
make things
is,
up, Jim. Don't
cut me off,
Come
sir.
on, don't make things
Jake,
up.
can I say something about that?
Sure, Dr. Carson.
You know, when I entered this race, all the political pundits said it's impossible. You can't do it because you're not connected with the money. And there's no way that you can raise what you need in order to compete successfully. I, in no way, am willing to get in the bed with special interest groups or lick the boots of billionaires. I have said to the people, if they want me to do this, please get involved. And we now have over 500,000 donations.
Carson,
and
I like
the money
you.
is coming in.
Please.
But the pundits
Wake
forgot
up.
about one thing, and that is the people. And they are really in charge.
Thank you, Dr. Carson. Let's move to Russia, if we could. Russia is sending troops and tanks into Syria right now to prop up a U.S. enemy, Bashar al-Assad. President Obama's incoming top general says, quote, Russia presents the greatest threat to our national security. Mr. Trump, you say you can do business with President Vladimir Putin. You say you will get along, quote, very well. What would you do right now if you were president to get the Russians out of Syria?
All right, so number one, they have to respect you. He has absolutely no respect for President Obama. Zero. Syria is a mess. You look at what's going on with ISIS in there. Now think of this. We're fighting ISIS. ISIS wants to fight Syria. Why are we fighting ISIS in Syria? Let them fight each other and pick up the remnants. I would talk to him. I
It's
would
not
get
funny to
along
laugh,
with him.
but
I believe, and
this
I
is
may be
common
wrong,
sense.
in which case I'd probably have to take a different path. But I would get along with a lot of the world leaders that this country is not getting along with. We don't get along with China. We don't get along with the heads of Mexico. We don't get along with anybody. And yet at the same time, they rip us left and right. They take advantage of us economically and every other way.
There's another super chat. Duster Carter for 2. What do you have voted for George W. Bush in 2004? With context, probably no. Because, okay, Bush winning caused a lot of problems after 2004. That's just my opinion, but it depends on the circumstance. Like, I don't think I would have voted for Kerry, but yeah.
We get along with nobody. I will get along, I think, with Putin, and I will get along with others, and we will have a much more stable world.
So just to clarify, the only answer I heard to the question I asked is that you would reach out to Vladimir Putin and you would do what?
I believe that I will get along. We will do, between that, Ukraine, all of the other problems, we won't have the kind of problems that our country has right now with Russia and many other nations.
Senator Rubio, you've taken a very different approach to the question of Russia. You've called Vladimir Putin a, quote, gangster. Why would President Rubio's approach be more effective than President Trump's?
Well, first of all, I have an understanding of exactly what it is Russia and Putin are doing, and it's pretty straightforward. He wants to reposition Russia once again as a geopolitical force. He himself said that the destruction of the Soviet Union, the fall of the Soviet Union, was the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century. And now he's trying to reverse that. He's trying to destroy NATO. And this is what this is a part of. He is exploiting a vacuum that this administration has left in the Middle East. Here's what you're going to see in the next few weeks. The Russians will begin to fly combat missions in that region, not just targeting ISIS, but in order to prop up Assad. He will also then turn to other...
Oh, gosh, Rubio, please be quiet. Rye Guy 1218 for 2. You think Jeb is a CC plan? No, I just think it's Jeb. He's good on, like, unironically, he would be a better president than Bush. The first Bush. His brother. But outside of that, he's just Jeb. There's nothing to say about that.
Other countries in the region and say, America is no longer a reliable ally, Egypt. America is no longer a reliable ally, Saudi Arabia. Begin to rely on us. What he is doing is he is trying to replace us as the single most important power broker in the Middle East. And this president is allowing it. That is what is happening in the Middle East. That's what's happening with Russia and every region.
I want to bring in Carly Fiorina. Ms. Fiorina.
Awful.
Having met Vladimir
we were
Putin,
screwed in 2016 without Trump.
I wouldn't talk to him at all. We've talked way too much to him. What I would do immediately is begin rebuilding the Sixth Fleet. I would begin rebuilding the missile defense program in Poland. I would conduct regular, aggressive military exercises in the Baltic states. I'd probably send a few thousand more troops into Germany. Vladimir Putin would get the message. By the way, the reason it is so critically important that every one of us know General Soleimani's name is because Russia is in Syria right now because the head of the Quds force traveled to Russia and talked Vladimir Putin.
What? I'm just baffled when I'm listening
into aligning themselves with Iran and Syria to prop up Bashar al-Assad. Russia is a bad actor, but Vladimir Putin is someone we should not talk to, because the only way he will stop is to sense strength and resolve on the other side. And we have all of that within our control. We could rebuild the Sixth Fleet. I will. We haven't. We could rebuild the missile defense program. We haven't. I will.
We were this close to
We could
World War
also, to
III.
Senator Rubio's point, give the
Gosh.
Egyptians what they've asked for, which is intelligence. We could give the Jordanians what they've asked for, bombs and materiel. We have not supplied it. I will. We could arm the Kurds. They've been asking us for 3 years. All of this is within our control.
Thank you, Mr.
Just for the record, if it wasn't for Trump, we probably got in World War III in 2017. Do people forget that? I mean, Hillary Clinton wanted a no-fly zone over Syria, and that, I mean, basically all the Republicans except, like, Huckabee, they want to send our troops overseas. It just... What are you talking about? We talked to Vladimir Putin so much. I know this is 2016, but what? Trump was the only one of these clowns, outside, again, like a couple of them, that truly understood, yes, when we absolutely need to, use the military. But first talk peacefully. Then, if we, last resort, use the military. How is this? I don't get it. And they clap. Well, this is the GOP from... How much you want to bet, like, 90% of these people are, like, Romney Clinton voters? I guarantee it.
Fiorina, while you brought up the subject of General Soleimani of the Quds forces from Iran, the next president, no matter who he or she may...
Hold on, we got a super chat. Sorry about that, my mic muted. Duster Carter for 2. Do you remember when neocons had a chance yet failed? Yeah, I mean... The neocons, they blew it. They did have control for the Republican Party for a little bit. And they blew it. Absolutely wasted it. And we got lucky. We would have been in World War III already. And this is why I want Trump 2024. Because he's the only one who wouldn't get us involved in this nonsense. For sure. DeSantis, I have some questions. I do not like that flip at all about Ukraine. I just didn't. And again, it sucks what's happening over there. We should be promoting peace. But at the same time, we shouldn't, like, send troops over there. What the heck? Okay, there we go.
Maybe will inherit President Obama's Iran deal. Senator Cruz, Governor Kasich says that anyone who is promising to rip up the Iran deal on day one, as you have...
Wait, hold on. Was that Don Huffines? Somebody brought that up. Is that him? Yo, was that Don Huffines? Is that him? Wait a minute. I haven't noticed this. Hold up. That is him, I think. That looks exactly like him. Wow, this is a small world. That's just out of the blue. Bottom right corner, that's the Republican challenger to Abbott. I don't... Why is he here? Okay.
Obama's Iran deal. Senator Cruz, Governor Kasich says
Texas?
that
No, it's
anyone
Virginia,
who is promising to rip up the Iran deal on day one, as you have promised to do, is, quote, inexperienced and, quote, playing to a crowd. Respond to Governor Kasich, please.
Well, let me tell you, Jake, the single biggest national security threat facing America right now is the threat of a nuclear Iran. We've seen 6.5 years of President Obama leading from behind. Weakness is provocative, and this Iranian nuclear deal is nothing short of catastrophic. This deal on its face will send over $100 billion to the Ayatollah Khamenei, making the Obama administration the world's leading financier of radical Islamic terrorism. This deal abandons 4 American hostages in Iran, and this deal will only accelerate Iran's acquiring nuclear weapons. You better believe it.
Okay, California.
If I am elected president on the very first day in office, I will rip to shreds this catastrophic Iranian nuclear deal.
Why is that not, as Governor Kasich says, playing to the crowd and an example of you being inexperienced?
Well, let's be clear when it comes to experience. What President Obama wants to do is he's run to the United Nations and he wants to use the United Nations to bind the United States and take away our sovereignty.
Yeah, he looks awful without
Well, I
the beard.
spent 5.5 years as the Solicitor General of Texas, the lead lawyer for the state in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. And I went in front of the Supreme Court and took on the World Court in the United Nations in a case called Medellin versus Texas, and we won an historic victory saying the World Court in the UN has no power to bind the United States, and no president of the United States, Republican or Democrat, has the authority to give away our sovereignty. And so if there's anyone up here who would be bound by this catastrophic deal with Iran, they're giving up the core responsibility of commander-in-chief, and as president, I would never do that.
Governor Kasich, did Senator Cruz just play to the crowd?
Let me just say this. First of all, I think it's a bad agreement. I would never have done it. But, you know, a lot of our problems in the world today is that we don't have the relationship with our allies. If we want to go everywhere alone, we will not have the strength as if we can rebuild our relationships with our allies. Now, this agreement, we don't know what's going to happen in 18 months. I served on the Defense Committee for 18 years. I've seen lots of issues in foreign affairs and in terms of global politics. You have to be steady. Now, if they cheat, we slap the sanctions back on. If they help Hamas and Hezbollah, we slap the sanctions back on. And if we find out that they may be developing a nuclear weapon, then the military option is on the table. We are stronger when we work with the Western civilization.
You idiot. I cannot believe the GOP was this incompetent just 10 years ago. Just under, I should say. Oh my. What? We gotta use a military option if they're, you know, developing. I just can't. This is awful.
Our friends in Europe, and just doing it on our own, I don't think is the right policy.
Thank you, Governor Kasich. I want to go to Senator Paul.
Chicken.
I want to go to Senator Paul. Senator Paul, the White House is rolling out the red carpet next week for the president of China, President Xi. Governor Walker says that President Obama should cancel the state dinner because of China's currency manipulation and because of China's alleged cyber attacks against the United States. Is Governor Walker right?
I think this goes back to essentially what we've been saying for the last 2 or 3 questions. Carly Fiorina also said, we're not going to talk with Putin. Well, think if Reagan had said that during the Cold War. We continued to talk with the Russians throughout the Cold War, which is much more significant than where we are now.
Thank you.
Should we continue to talk with Iran?
Rand Paul,
yes.
at least,
should
he's
we
good
cut
at
up the
foreign
agreement
policy.
immediately?
I'll give
That's
him that.
absurd.
He just
Wouldn't
sucks
you want to
on
know if they
economics.
comply?
That's his problem.
Now, I'm going to vote against the agreement because I don't think there's significant leverage. But it doesn't mean that I would immediately not look at the agreement and cut it up without looking to see whether Iran is complying. The same goes with China. I don't think we need to be rash. I don't think we need to be reckless. And I think we need to leave lines of communication open. Often we talk about whether we should be engaged in the world or disengaged in the world. And I think this is an example of some who want to isolate us, actually, and not be engaged. We do need to be engaged with Russia. It doesn't mean we give them a free pass or China a free pass, but to be engaged means to continue to talk. We did throughout the Cold War, and it'd be a big mistake not to do it.
Governor Walker,
people
Senator
forget,
Paul seems to suggest
all these clowns worship Reagan, but they just forget that Reagan, he really wasn't a war hawk. I mean, he really wasn't. And these clowns are like, oh, we need to cut off communications with the Russians because they're gonna. It's like, bro.
that canceling the state dinner would be rash and reckless.
No, two parts to that. One on China, one back for a second on Iran. When it comes to China, why would we be giving an official state visit to a country that's been involved in a massive cyber attack against the United States? That's not just a visit. That's a 21-gun salute in the South Lawn of the White House. It just doesn't make any sense. If we're ever going to send a message to them, wouldn't this be the time when they issued this sort of massive attack against us? And Jake, per the question, I was one of the first ones to call for terminating the bad deal with Iran on day one. The president came after me and said, I need to bone up. You know, the president who called ISIS the JV squad said, I need to bone up. The reality is it's a bad deal on day one, and it's a bad deal because this president has allowed Iran to go closer and closer. I'd love to play cards with this guy because Barack Obama folds on everything with Iran. We need a leader who's going to stand up and actually show some teeth.
Governor Bush, your father was the chief diplomatic envoy to China back when Nixon opened relations to China. Is Scott Walker's approach the right one, canceling the state dinner?
No, I don't think so, but we need to be strong against China. We should use offensive tactics as it relates to cybersecurity to send a deterrent signal to China. There should be stiffer sanctions than what President Obama has proposed. There's many other tools that we have without canceling a dinner. That's not going to change anything, but we can be much stronger as it relates to that. And as it relates to Iran, it's not a strategy to tear up an agreement. A strategy would be, how do we confront Iran? And the first thing that we need to do is to reestablish our commitment to Israel, which has been tattered by this administration.
No.
And make sure that they have the most sophisticated weapons to send a signal to Iran that we have Israel's back. If we do that, it's going to create a healthier deterrent effect than anything else I can think of.
I want to turn to Governor Huckabee,
oh my
who has
God.
been very patient.
Bro, look at this. Look at Chris Christie. Hold on.
If we do that, it's going to create a healthier deterrent effect than anything else I can think of.
I want to turn to Governor.
Look at this. Right side. Bro. Are you okay there? I thought people were joking about that. Christie's only here for the cheese pizza. Oh my gosh. What? I mean, Christie. I mean, I don't know what to say about this, but yeah, I have no comment.
Governor Huckabee, who has been very patient. Somebody had to be 11th, and he is. But I do want to change the subject to the event that you had a meeting.
I would certainly love to get in on this.
Well, you can
use
your minute however you want, but I want to ask this question.
And I'm going to just say this about Iran.
All right, sir, go ahead.
Because I think it is incredibly important. This is really about the survival of Western civilization. This is not just a little conflict with a Middle Eastern country that we've just now given over $100 billion to. The equivalent in U.S. terms is $5 trillion. This threatens Israel immediately. This threatens the entire Middle East, but it threatens the United States.
Again, when it comes to Israel stuff, I'm not... I think it's just, too much of a focus, but the reason they talk about this is because evangelical voters. That's why. It's... Evangelical voters care a lot about the issue. So I can understand it, but it just, I think they're an ally, but at some point I don't think we should be supporting them, $10 billion or $10 trillion a year. I'm just saying that, I think we talk about them too much. It's just, yes, they're an ally, but they shouldn't be the #1 focus of the world. But that's just me. I'm not saying, I'm against them. I'm just say that they're an ally. I just don't like how we talk about it constantly. That's my only pet peeve. I'm not against talking about it, just it should be the #1 issue in the world.
States of America. And we can't treat a nuclear Iranian government as if it is just some government that would like to have some power. This is a government that for 36 years has killed Americans. They've kidnapped Americans. They've maimed Americans. They have sponsored terrorist groups, Hamas and Hezbollah. And they threaten the very essence of Western civilization. To give them this agreement that the president treats like the Magna Carta, but the Iranians treat it like it's toilet paper. And we must simply...
Dustin Carter for 2. Please do a review of neoconservatives years from 2000 2008. I mean, is that really... That's one where maybe I could talk about in the future, but... Yeah. Please make a rant on Richard Hudson, the awful job he's handling at NRCC. He's doing better than Emmer, so... And, yeah. And people, let me be clear. I'm not saying, I'm against Israel. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I'm not... It should not be the #1 focus in the world. That's all I'm trying to say. Nothing against them. I'm not like some people that think, oh my gosh, it's a secret conspiracy. It's like, no. It's just they're an ally, but I think that, people look too much into it. That's always what I've saw about it. So, yeah. That's what I got to say on the final statement on that. I'm not saying anything bad about Israel, just I think it's, yeah.
Make it very clear that the next president, one of us on this stage, will absolutely not honor that agreement and will destroy it and will be tough with Iran, because otherwise we put every person in this world in a very dangerous place.
Jake, okay. I'd like a
We're gonna turn now to Hugh Hewitt from Salem Radio Network.
Thank you, Jake. Mr. Trump, 2 years ago, President Obama drew a red line that the Syrian dictator Bashar Assad crossed. President Obama threatened to strike. He did not. His knees buckled. We now have 4 million refugees. Syria is a living hell. And he turned to the Congress for the authority to back him up. You have 3 senators to your right who said no. Do they bear responsibility for this refugee crisis? And what would you have done when Bashar Assad crossed that line?
Number one, I wouldn't have drawn the line, but once he drew it, he had no choice but to go across. They do bear some responsibility, but I think he probably didn't do it not for that reason. Somehow he just doesn't have courage. There's something missing from our president. Had he crossed the line and really gone in with force and done something to Assad, if he had gone in with tremendous force, you wouldn't have millions of people displaced all over the world.
How much responsibility, Mr. Trump, did the senators hold?
I think they had a responsibility, absolutely. I think we have 3 of them
here.
here.
Syria is
I think
Obama's
they had
fault.
a
That was
responsibility.
ridiculous.
Let me tell you why we have zero responsibility, because let's remember what the president said. He said the attack that he was going to conduct was going to be a pinprick. Well, the United States military was not built to conduct pinprick attacks. If the United States military is going to be engaged by a commander-in-chief, it should only be engaged in an endeavor to win. And we're not going to authorize use of force if you're not putting men and women in a position where they can win. And quite frankly, people don't trust this president as commander-in-chief because of that.
Senator Paul.
I think this gets to the point of wisdom on when we should intervene and when we shouldn't. Had we bombed Assad at the time, like President Obama wanted, like Hillary Clinton wanted, and like many Republicans wanted, I think ISIS would be in Damascus today. I think ISIS would be in charge of Syria had we bombed Assad.
Always been.
Sometimes both sides of a civil war are evil, and sometimes intervention makes us less safe. This is the real debate we have to have in the Middle East. Every time we've toppled a secular dictator, we've gotten chaos, the rise of radical Islam, and we're more at risk. So I think we need to think before we act and know that most interventions, if not a lot of them in the Middle East, have actually backfired on us.
Thank you, Senator Paul. I want to turn now to my colleague, Dana Bash.
Hold on a second. Jake, he asked me as well. I'd like to actually
go
get
ahead,
a chance
sir. That would be fair.
You're respond to
You're right. You're the 3rd senator.
I think I'm the 1st senator. The number 1 test for use of military force should be the vital national security interest of the United States. The reason why I opposed President Obama bombing Syria is because he couldn't answer the question, what do you do if chemical weapons end up in the hands of radical Islamic terrorists like al-Nusra, like al-Qaeda, like ISIS? Now, I also want to respond to several of the folks up here who said, we should trust this Iranian deal and see if the Iranians will comply. Anyone who's paying attention to what Khamenei says knows that they will not comply. There's a reason Khamenei refers to Israel as the little Satan, and America is the great Satan. In the middle of negotiating this treaty, Khamenei led the assembled masses in chanting death to America. I'm reminded of a great editorial cartoon.
Ted Cruz,
it shows
stop
the
cooking.
Ayatollah Khamenei saying death to all Americans.
Okay, we're past that part.
And then it shows
I tried
John
to make
Kerry
sure that was
coming
nothing
back
bad.
saying, can we meet you halfway? We need a commander-in-chief who will stand up and protect this country. And I'll tell you, I can't wait to stand on that debate stage with Hillary Clinton and to make abundantly clear, if you vote for Hillary, you are voting for the Ayatollah Khamenei to possess a nuclear weapon. And if you elect me as president, under no circumstances will a theocratic Ayatollah who chants death to America ever be allowed to acquire a nuclear weapon.
Thank you, Senator Cruz. We're going to go to Dana Bash.
I want to say something about what the senator just said.
And then it'll be my turn.
Let me suggest to you, we believe that we operate better in the world when our allies work with us. President Bush did it in the Gulf War. We work better when we are unified. Secondly, nobody's trusting Iran. They violate the deal, we put on the sanctions, and we have the high moral ground to talk to our allies in Europe, to get them to go with us. If they don't go with us, we slap the sanctions on anyway. If they fund these radical groups that threaten Israel and all of the West, then we should rip up the deal and put the sanctions back on. And let me make it clear. Let me make it clear. If we think they're getting close to developing a nuclear weapon and we get that information, you better believe that I would do everything in my power as the commander-in-chief to stop them having a nuclear weapon. We can have it, and we can have our allies, and we can be strong as a country, and we can project across this globe with unity.
Oh, yes.
Not just
This
doing
is-
it alone. That is
Let's
not what
attack
gets
a
us where
country
we
that
want to
has a
get as a
nuke.
nation.
Jeez, I wonder
Jake,
what would
there
happen.
is no more important topic in 2016 than this topic right here. And I've listened to several folks saying, well, gosh, if they cheat, we'll act. We won't know. Under this agreement, there are several facilities in Iran they designate as military facilities that are off limit altogether. Beyond that, the other facilities, we give them 24 days notice before inspecting them. That is designed to allow them to hide the evidence. And most astonishingly, this agreement...
We got a super chat. Duster Carter for 2. Would you support annexing Alberta? Please say yes. Maybe. It just... Okay. It depends on the circumstance. Like, if Canada collapses, like, maybe. If they want to join us, that's fine. But it's just like, if Quebec wants to join, that's a different story. I think they should be a nation in themselves. But either way, I think that if Canada's, like, collapse or something like that, let them in. If it's Alberta. Because they're pretty much the Rust Belt of Canada, so.
Trust the Iranians to inspect themselves. That makes no sense whatsoever. And let me note, President Obama is violating federal law by not handing over the side deals, and we ought to see the United States Congress stand up together and say, hand over this treaty and protect this country.
Thank you, Senator. I want to turn back to Governor Huckabee. Governor Huckabee, last week you held a rally for a county clerk in Kentucky who was jailed for refusing to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples, as I don't need to tell you. You've called what happened to Kim Davis, that clerk, an example of the criminalization of Christianity. There are several people on the stage who disagree with you. Governor Bush, for example, says that that clerk is sworn to uphold the law. Is Governor Bush on the wrong side of the criminalization of Christianity?
No, I don't think he's on the wrong side of such an issue. Jeb is a friend. I'm not up here to fight with Jeb or to fight with anybody else. But I am here to fight for somebody who is a county clerk elected under the Kentucky Constitution that 75% of the people of that state had voted for, that said that marriage was between a man and a woman. The Supreme Court, in a very, very divided decision, decided out of thin air that they were just going to redefine marriage. It's a decision that the other justices in dissent said they didn't have, and there wasn't a constitutional shred of capacity for them to do it. I thought that everybody here passed ninth grade civics. The courts cannot legislate. It's what Roberts said. But heck, it's what we learned in civics. The courts can't make a law. They can interpret one. They can review one. They can't implement it. They can't force it. But here's what happened. Because the courts just decided that something was going to be, and people relinquished it, and the other two branches of government sat by silently. I thought we had three branches of government. They were all equal to each other. We have separation of powers. And we got
a super chat. Who Spence Sports Network for 2. Who is the biggest rhino? Like currently in like the House and Senate? Ooh, probably Nancy Mace. But in like history, ooh, like recent memory, probably Liz Cheney's up there. Kissing ass is up there. Ooh, there's some doozies. The Snowflake from Arizona. Yeah. Why the F do I keep getting ads in the middle of a effing live stream? It's YouTube. I'm not the one controlling that, so. But for real, if you took British Columbia, you'll be stuck with Vancouver. Yeah, didn't Alberta, like, flip to, like, a conservative, like, majority? Or some, like, base party? I don't know for sure, but Romney. Yeah, I'm saying Romney. He costed us quite a bit.
Had checks and balances. If the court can just make a decision and we just all surrender to it, we have what Jefferson said was judicial tyranny. The reason that this is a real issue that we need to think about.
Thank you, Governor.
No, let me finish this one thought, Jake. I haven't gotten that much time, so I'm going to take just what little I can here. We made accommodation to the Fort Hood shooter to let him grow a beard. We made accommodations to the detainees at Gitmo. I've been to Gitmo and I've seen the accommodations that we made to the Muslim detainees who killed Americans. You're telling me that you cannot make an accommodation for an elected Democrat county clerk from Rowan County, Kentucky? What else is it other than the criminalization of her faith and the exaltation of the faith of everyone else who might be a Fort Hood shooter or a detainee at Gitmo.
Well, I'm not telling you that,
That's
Governor.
pretty good.
But Governor Bush is.
That's pretty good answer by
because he
Huckabee.
disagrees. He thinks
I've
that
always
Kim
been a fan
Davis
of
swore to
Huckabee.
uphold the law. You disagree. You're not. You don't
I
believe
think
that?
you're not stating my views right.
Okay, please do.
I
Please
think
share.
there needs to be accommodation for someone acting on their faith. Religious conscience is a first freedom. It's a powerful part of our Bill of Rights. And in a big, tolerant country, we should respect the rule of law, allow people in this country. I was opposed to the decision, but you can't just say, well, gays can't get married now. But this woman, there should be some accommodation for her conscience, just as there should be for people that are florists that don't want to participate in weddings, or bakers. A great country like us should find a way to have accommodations for people so that we can solve this problem in the right way. This should be solved at the local level.
You did,
and so we do agree, Mike.
Well,
I think I was
Governor, you said,
by Mr. Tepper here.
Governor, you said, quote, she is sworn to uphold the law.
She is, and so if she, based on conscience, can't sign that marriage license, then there should be someone in her office to be able to do it. And if the law...
Okay, so we had some breaking news, actually. Is coming out of Capitol Hill, and it sounds like there's two things. A motion to vacate is potentially likely for Speaker McCarthy, and it seems like AOC is voting no against the new budget. So this may not pass. There's a chance this may not even get killed the committee. Well, if AOC is already saying that she's voting no, that's pretty big. That's just a breaking news that just came in. So, how many Democrats are going to be needed to stop the bill? Hopefully they can kill the committee, or at least get amendments done, because it sounded like McCarthy's in deep trouble. Dustin Carter for 2. Why does a lot of rural New England vote blue? Honestly, I think it's just a culture. I mean, you have a lot of people that were from Boston, New York. You know, they're culturally, Bostonian, whatever you want to call it. And they probably moved the rural New England. Plus, it's always more liberal leaning, more libertarian. That's kind of why they've never been the most government people in the world. So that's why AOC base red pilled. I would be surprised if McCarthy survives. Yeah, it's not sounding too good. From what we're hearing is the House Freedom Caucus is not happy because apparently they cut off communications with them and went behind their back. Yeah, Bostonians, yeah. I can never pronounce it correctly. But, yeah, they're just a lot of people that lived in Boston their entire lives are moving to, rural New England. That's why.
Law needs to be changed in the state of Kentucky, which is what she's advocating. It should be changed.
Let me go to my colleague Dana Bash, who has a
no, rural New England is rural. It just votes differently.
question.
Governor Kasich, Senator Cruz is so committed to stripping federal funds from Planned Parenthood that it could result in shutting down the federal government in just about 2 weeks.
Let's go!
Do you agree with Senator Cruz's tactic?
Well, I agree that we should defund Planned Parenthood. I don't know many people in America that don't think that we should. And in my state, we're trying to figure out how to get it done because we are threatened with the federal government taking all of our Medicaid money away. I think there's a way to get this done by giving governors the ability to be able to act to defund Planned Parenthood. But when it comes to closing down the federal government, we got to be very careful about that. When we shut the government down, if we have a chance of success and it's a great principle, yes, the President of the United States is not going to sign this. And all we're going to do is shut the government down, and then we're going to open it up, and American people are going to shake their heads and say, what's the story with these Republicans? So I think there is a way to get to cutting off the funding for Planned Parenthood. I was in the Congress for 18 years, balanced the budget, cut taxes, got it done, changed welfare, went around the president to get welfare reform done. There are ways to do it without having to shut the government down, but I'm sympathetic to the fact that we don't want this organization to get funding, and the money ought to be reprogrammed for family planning in other organizations that don't support this tactic. But I would not be for shutting the government down because I don't think it's going to work out.
Thank you. Senator Cruz, I would just add that on this stage not that long ago, Senator Graham said that this tactic that you're pushing would tank the Republicans' ability to win in 2016.
Well, let me tell you, Dan, number one, I'm proud to stand for life. These Planned Parenthood videos are horrifying. I would
Yeah, we're going to probably skip this part because of YouTube, but we got a super chat. Duster Carner for 2. God bless the South. The Yankees are a mess. I just think it's down to religion. That's probably what's on with the trends. I mean, the South is very evangelical, while the North is, more Catholic, not as evangelical. That's the big difference. Plus, it's always been culturally conservative in the South. So that's probably why we're not seeing the similar trends like we saw in the South. But hopefully, Wisconsin, Michigan, hopefully they become Republican. Hopefully. But I may have to skip this part because YouTube, so.
Enterprise, and I'll tell you, the fact that Republican leadership in both houses has begun this discussion by preemptively surrendering to Barack Obama and saying we'll give in because Obama threatens a veto. Obama's committed to his principles, his liberal principles. He will fight for them. He says, I will veto any budget that doesn't fund Planned Parenthood, and Republicans surrender.
Familiar.
We need to stop surrendering and start standing for our principles.
Thank you, Senator.
This sounds so familiar.
Is it what Senator Cruz says, a surrender by Republicans?
No, what I can tell you is this. We didn't surrender in New Jersey 6 years ago as the brand new first ever pro-life governor of New Jersey since Roe versus Wade. I defunded Planned Parenthood, and I've vetoed Planned Parenthood funding now 8 times in New Jersey. Since the day I walked in as governor, Planned Parenthood has not been funded in New Jersey. We've stood up, and every one of those vetoes has been sustained. But here's the problem. We're fighting with each other up here. We agree. Let's ask Hillary Clinton. She believes in the systematic murder of children in the womb to preserve their body parts, Dana, in a way that maximizes their value for sale for profit. It is disgusting, and the American people need to hear it. We shouldn't be fighting with each other. She's the real opponent.
Governor,
she's the real problem.
Governor, the reality is in just 2 weeks'
pretty
time,
good.
we are going to be facing a question about whether or not it's enough to shut down the government to make that statement because there's still a Democrat in the White House. Do you oppose it or support it?
I'll tell you what I'd be willing to fight for. Why haven't we put tax reform on the president's desk? So we can simplify this tax system.
Yes or no,
no,
do
it's
you
really
support the
important,
shutdown?
Dana. We got to talk about what we would be willing to shut down for. Why don't we put tax reform on this president's desk and make him veto it if that's what he wants to do? Why haven't we repealed and replaced Obamacare? Make him veto if that's what he wants to do.
Oh,
and
gosh, you're talking about taxes
and
and abortion
a Republican Congress to do this, and they should be doing it, and they're not, and they're giving the president a pass.
Dana, I'd like
One more time. I'm sorry, I just want to get an
I
answer.
put it in the list, Dana.
Okay.
We should be doing these things and forcing the president to take action.
you would support
Let's
a
force
shutdown.
him to do what he says he's going to do.
Dana,
now, I don't
I'd
know
like-
whether he'll do it or not, but let's force him to do it.
Dana, I'd like to link these two issues, both of which are incredibly important, Iran and Planned Parenthood. One has something to do with the defense of the security of this nation. The other has something to do with the defense of the character of this nation. You have not heard a plan about Iran from any politician up here. Here's my plan. On day one in the Oval Office, I will make 2 phone calls. The first to my good friend Bibi Netanyahu to reassure him we will stand with the state of Israel. The second to the Supreme Leader to tell him that unless and until he opens every military and every nuclear facility to real anytime, anywhere inspections by our people, not his, we, the United States of America, will make it as difficult as possible to move money around the global financial system. We can do that. We don't need anyone's cooperation to do it. And every ally and every adversary we have in this world will know that the United States of America is back in the leadership business, which is how we must stand with our allies. As regards Planned Parenthood, anyone who has watched this videotape, I dare Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama to watch these tapes. Watch a fully formed fetus on the table, its heart beating, its legs kicking, while someone says we have to keep it alive to harvest its brain. This is about the character of our nation. And if we will not stand up and force President Obama to veto this bill, shame on us.
The foreign policy stuff was awful, but the abortion stuff was on message.
I want to continue on the subject. Governor Bush, you recently said while discussing Planned Parenthood, quote, "You're not sure we need $500 million for women's health issues." Now, you since said that you misspoke. You didn't mean to say women's health issues, but Donald Trump said that quote, that comment, which Hillary Clinton did seize upon immediately, will haunt you the same way Mitt Romney's 47% video haunted him. Tell Donald Trump why he's wrong.
Well, he's wrong on a lot of things, but on this he's wrong because I'm the most pro-life governor on this stage. I got to act
Trump's
on
the
my
one that
core
got
beliefs.
over,
It's part of
overturned
who
Roe
I
versus
am.
Wade. So
Life is a
and
gift from
context
God.
is
And
funny.
from beginning to end, we need to respect it and err on the side of life. And so I defunded Planned Parenthood. We created a climate where parental notification took place. We were the only state to fund crisis pregnancy centers with state monies. We were totally focused on this, and I would bring that kind of philosophy to Washington, D.C. So here's a solution to this. Title 10 of the HHS funding, there's something that was called the Reagan Rule. It was passed in 1988. And in that rule, it was defined, and the courts approved this, that a Planned Parenthood, you couldn't...
Spence Sports Network for 2. Is Ted Cruz more moderate or is he farther right? Recently he seems like a cringe moderate. That's what it seems like. The only good thing about him has always been his stances on social issues, but recently it seemed like that's going down the toilet, so...
Separate the money between the actual abortion procedures, and there are 330,000 abortions that take place in this clinic, and their promotion of it. He interpreted it the right way. The courts ruled in his favor, and Planned Parenthood did not get funding during that time until President Clinton came in. When I'm elected president, we will restore that interpretation of Title 10, and this deal will be finished.
Thank you, Governor Bush. Donald Trump, let me just, the quote was, I'm not sure we need $500 million for women's health issues. He said he misspoke. You said that that's going to haunt him. Why do you think that?
I think it's a terrible statement. I think it's going to haunt him absolutely. He came back later and he said he misspoke. There was no question because I heard when he said the statement. I was watching and he said the statement and I said, wow, I can't believe it. I will take care of women. I respect women. I will take care of women. One thing we will say, and I would like to get back to the Iran situation. We're talking about Iran. The agreement was terrible. It was incompetent. I've never seen anything like it. One of the worst contracts of any kind I've ever seen. And nobody ever mentions North Korea, where you have this maniac sitting there, and he actually has nuclear weapons, and somebody better start thinking about North Korea and perhaps a couple of other places, but certainly North Korea. And Ted and I have spoken. A lot of us have spoken. We're talking about Iran. They're bad actors. Bad things are going to happen. But in the meantime, you have somebody right now in North Korea who's got nuclear weapons and who is saying almost every other week, I'm ready to use them, and we don't even mention it.
Governor Bush?
There are 13,000 community-based organizations that provide health services to women. 13,000 in this country. I don't believe that Planned Parenthood should get a penny from the federal government. Those organizations should get funding, just as I increased funding when I was governor of the state. That's the way you do this, is you improve the condition for people. And Donald, when I was governor, we also increased the opportunities for women. Women's income grew 3 times faster than national average when I was governor.
So why did you say it? Why did you say it? I know, but why did you say it? I heard it myself. Why did you say
child support. We increased child support.
You said you're going to cut funding for women's health issues. You said it.
I have a proven record.
You said it.
I want to. We're going to get to.
Jake,
this debate's a mess. Yeah.
There's something bigger to this. Now, I like some of the other governors here. I defunded Planned Parenthood 4.5 years ago in a blue state. But it's bigger than that. We did that in a blue state. We took the money and put it in the women's health. So we did exactly what we're talking about here. But I think the bigger issue here is we should be able to do this nationally. And this is precisely why so many Republicans are upset with Washington. They see the House and they see the Senate and say, why can't we pass this? Why can't we defund Planned Parenthood in a spending bill? Forget about the 60-vote rule. There's no reason, and the Constitution doesn't call for 60 votes. Pass it with 51 votes. Put it on the desk of the president and go forward and actually make a point. That's why people are upset.
We're going to get to many of these issues. We're still in the first block, believe it or not. We're going to get to many of these issues. But before we end this block, Ms. Fiorina, I do want to ask you about this. In an interview last week in Rolling Stone magazine, Donald Trump said the following about you, quote, look at that face. Would anyone vote for that? Can you imagine that, the face of our next president? Mr. Trump later said he was talking about your persona, not your appearance. Please feel free to respond what you think about his persona.
You know, it's interesting to me. Mr. Trump said that he heard Mr. Bush very clearly and what Mr. Bush said. I think women all over this country heard very clearly what Mr. Trump said.
I think she's got a beautiful face, and I think she's a beautiful woman.
All right, on that note, In less than 2 minutes, we're going to take a very quick break. In less than 2 minutes, the most contentious issue on the campaign trail and the candidates.
Let's skip ahead. Okay. First pause. That was fascinating. Woke. Oh, yep, skip ahead,
and the issue of immigration. Mr. Trump, you have called for...
Okay, that's 100% Don Huffines. You cannot deny it is. That looks like Madison Cawthorn on the left, doesn't it? Like a younger version. But yeah, that's just... Is that actually him?
In this campaign than the issue of immigration. Mr. Trump, you have called for deporting every undocumented immigrant. Governor Christie has said, quote, there are not enough law enforcement officers, local, county, state, and federal, combined to forcibly deport 11 to 12 million people. Tell Governor Christie how much your plan will cost and how you will get it done.
Correct. First of all, I want to build a wall that works. So important, and it's a big part of it. Second of all, we have a lot of really bad dudes in this country from outside, and I think Chris knows that maybe as well as anybody. They go, if I get elected, first day, they're gone. Gangs all over the place, Chicago, Baltimore, no matter where you look. We have a country based on laws. I will make sure that those laws are adhered to. These are illegal immigrants. I don't think you'd even be asking this question if I didn't run. Because when I ran, and I brought this up at my opening remarks at Trump Tower, I took heat like nobody has taken heat in a long time. And then they found out with the killing of Kate from San Francisco and so many other crimes, they found out that I was right. And most people, many people, apologized to me. I don't think you'd even be talking about illegal immigration if it weren't for me. So we have a country of laws. They're going to go out, and they'll come back if they deserve to come back. If they've had a bad record, if they've been arrested, if they've been in jail, they're never coming back. We're going to have a country again. Right now, we don't have a country, we don't have a border, and we're going to do something about it. And it can be done with proper management, and it can be done with heart.
Governor Christie, you and I have talked about this in an interview. You say that his big wall, his plan to deport 11 to 12 million undocumented immigrants, it sounds great, but it's never going to happen. Tell him why you're skeptical of his plans.
Well, first off, Jake, I don't yield to anybody on how to enforce the law. I'm the only person on the stage who spent 7 years as the United States Attorney after September 11th. And I know how to do this. The fact is, though, that for 15,000 people a day to be deported every day for 2 years is an undertaking that almost none of us could accomplish given the current levels of funding and the current number of law enforcement officers.
I wish Trump would have done that.
And I think this is where Donald is absolutely right. What we need to do is to secure our border. And we need to do it with more than just a wall. We need to use electronics, we need to use drones, we need to use FBI, DA, and ATF, and yes, we need to take the fingerprint of every person who comes into this country on a visa, and when they overstay their visa, we need to tap them on the shoulder and say, you have overstayed your welcome, you are taking advantage of the American people, it's time for you to go. If we had that kind of system in place, we wouldn't have the 11 million people we have now.
Thank you, Governor Christie.
By the way, I agree with what Chris is saying, but I will say this. Illegal immigration is costing us more than $200 billion a year, just maintaining what we have.
I want to bring in Dr. Carson because he, too, has been skeptical of your plan to immediately deport 11 to 12 million illegal immigrants. He said, quote, people who say that have no idea what this entails. Why do you say that, Dr. Carson?
Well, first of all, recognize that we have an incredible illegal immigration problem. I was down in Arizona a few weeks ago at the border. I mean, the fences that were there were not manned, and those are the kind of fences when I was a kid that would barely slow us down. So I don't see any purpose in having that. Now, what we need to do is look at something that actually works. Yuma County, Arizona, they stopped 97% of the illegal immigration through there. They put in a double fence with a road so that there was quick access.
Didn't Trump say that, like, oh, we just got to build a wall like China?
If we don't seal the border, the rest of the stuff really doesn't matter. It's kind of ridiculous, all the other things that we talk about. We have the ability to do it. We don't have the will to do it. There was one area where they had cut a hole in the fence, and to prepare it, they put a few strands of barbed wire across. Well, the photographers who were there with us, they wanted to photograph us from the side of the Mexicans, and they went through there, and they were not physically fit people, and they took their cameras and things with them and shot us from the other side. That's how easy it is to get across. And the drugs,
man.
I mean, it goes on and on and
Like,
on.
Carson's
ICE
good on
tells
issues,
them to
but
release
he's
these
always
people.
had the problem of just- he can't
67,000
wake up.
criminals released
He
on
physically
our
cannot
property. It's
wake up.
ridiculous.
With all due respect, Dr. Carson, you said about Donald Trump's plan to immediately deport 11 to 12 million undocumented immigrants. People who say that have no idea what this entails. Why not?
Well, I have also said, if anybody knows how to do that, that I would be willing to listen. And if they can, specify exactly how that's going to be done and what the costs, and it sounds reasonable, then I think it's worth discussing. But
Let's continue the conversation about illegal immigration with Dana Bash.
Governor Bush, Mr. Trump has suggested that your views on immigration are influenced by your Mexican-born wife. He said that, quote, if my wife were from Mexico, I think I would have a soft spot for people from Mexico. Did Mr. Trump go too far in invoking your wife?
He did. He did. You're proud of your family, just as I am.
Correct.
To subject my wife into the middle of a raucous political conversation was completely inappropriate, and I hope you apologize for that, Donald.
Well, I have to tell you, I hear phenomenal things. I hear your wife is a lovely woman.
She is.
I
She's
don't
fantastic.
know her, and this
She
is
is
a total
absolutely the love of my life.
She's right.
Here. I want to apologize for her.
No, I won't
right
do that
now.
because I said nothing wrong, but I do hear she's a lovely woman.
So here's the deal. My wife is a Mexican-American. She's an American by choice. She loves this country as much as anybody in this room. And she wants a secure border, but she wants to embrace the traditional American values that make us special and make us unique. We're at a crossroads right now. Are we going to take the Reagan approach, the hopeful, optimistic approach, the approach that says that you come to our country,
the one that
legally,
destroyed the
you pursue
country,
your dreams with a vengeance, you create opportunities for all of us, or the Donald Trump approach? The approach that says that everything is bad, that everything is coming to an end.
Mr. Trump,
I'm
Jeb
on the Reagan
said
side of this.
That they come into our country as an act of love. With all of the problems that we have in so many instances, we have wonderful people coming in. But with all of the problems, this is not an act of love. He's weak on immigration. By the way, in favor of Common Core, which is also a disaster. But weak on immigration, he doesn't get my vote.
Dana, with all due respect to Mr. Trump, immigration did not come up in 2016 because Mr. Trump brought it up. We talked about it in 2012. We talked about it in 2008. We talked about it in 2004.
How did that
go? We have been talking about it for 25 years. This is why people are tired of politicians.
We're going to come to you. I just want to get Governor Bush a chance to respond to what Mr. Trump said.
Look, first of all, I wrote a book about this 4 years ago now. And I laid out a comprehensive conservative approach for immigration reform. And it does require securing the border. No one disagrees with that. But to build a wall and to deport people 500,000 a month would cost hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yes.
Hundreds of billions of dollars. It would destroy community life. It would tear families apart. And it would send a signal to the rest of the world that the United States values that are so important for our long-term success no longer matter in this country.
As I said, we are spending $200 billion.
Oh, man.
We are spending $200 billion a year on maintaining what we have. We will move them out. The great ones will come back. The good ones will come back. They'll be expedited. They'll be back. They'll come back legally. We'll have a country. They'll come back legally.
Okay, on that note, you have criticized Governor Bush for speaking Spanish on the campaign trail. You said, quote, he should really set an example by speaking.
We got a super chat. Ben Sinnix for 5. Jeb reminds me of the bots in Disney's Hall of Presidents. He and Ron DeSantis share the same level of charisma. At least Ron DeSantis is good on issues. Yeah, I mean, Jeb is Jeb. That's always what you got to say about Jeb. But man, jeez, I mean, what are you talking about? Oh, no, it's going to cost so much. You know, we can't physically do it. There's already a wall there. Just Trump has to repair it. And didn't go too well, but.
English in the United States. What's wrong with speaking
Spanish?
Spanish?
I think it's wonderful and all, but I did it a little bit half-heartedly, but I do mean it to a large extent. We have a country where to assimilate, you have to speak English.
Yes!
I think that where he was and the way it came out didn't sound right to me. We have to have assimilation. To have a country, we have to have assimilation. I'm not the first one to say this, Dana. We've had many people over the years, for many, many years, saying the same thing. This is a country where we speak English, not Spanish.
That's good.
Well, I've been speaking English here tonight, and I'll keep speaking English, but the simple fact is if a high school kid asked me a question in Spanish, a school, by the way, a voucher program that was created under my watch, the largest voucher program in the country, where kids can go to a Christian school, and they ask me a question in Spanish, I'm going to show respect and answer that question in Spanish, even though they do speak English, and even though they embrace American values.
This is a reporter, not a high school kid, by the way.
Dana, I agree that English is the unifying language of our country, and everyone should learn to speak it. It's important. I want to tell you a story about someone that didn't speak English that well. It was my grandfather. He came to this country in the 1960s as escaping Cuba. And he lived with us growing up.
English.
And my grandfather loved America. He understood what was so special about this country. He loved Ronald Reagan. He would be very proud of the fact that we're here this evening. My grandfather instilled in me the belief that I was blessed to live in the one society in all of human history where even I, the son of a bartender and a maid, could aspire to have anything and be anything that I was willing to work hard to achieve. But he taught me that in Spanish, because it was the language he was most comfortable in. And he became a conservative, even though he got his news
but we
in Spanish.
speak in English.
And so I do give interviews in Spanish, and here's
We
why.
speak English.
Because I believe that free
With
enterprise
high
and
school
limited government
students.
is the best way to help people who are trying to achieve upward mobility. And if they get their news in Spanish, I want them to hear that directly from me, not from a translator at Univision.
Thank you, Senator Rubio.
Look, I understand what you're saying, but like they have to learn English.
Senator Cruz, this week we learned more about Dr. Carson's plan for the 11 to 12 million undocumented immigrants in this country. Dr. Carson proposed giving these undocumented immigrants a 6-month grace period to pay back taxes, then to let them become guest workers, and only to deport people who fail to do that.
Not exactly what I said.
Well, how would you say it, sir? I was just reading the Wall Street Journal quote, but please tell us.
Well, what I said, after we seal the borders, after we turn off the spigot that dispenses all the goodies, so we don't have people coming in here, including employment, that people who had a pristine record, we should consider allowing them to become guest workers primarily in the agricultural sphere, because that's the place where Americans don't seem to want to work. That's what I said. And they have a 6-month period to do that. If they don't do it within that time period, then they become illegal.
I understand where he's coming from,
and as illegals,
but
they will be treated as such.
Okay, from the horse's mouth. Senator Cruz, does that fit your definition of amnesty?
Well, Jake, you know, I'm very glad that Donald Trump's being in this race has forced the mainstream media finally to talk about illegal immigration. I think that's very important. I like and respect Ben Carson. I'll let him talk about his own plans. But I will say this, the natural next question that primary voters are asking after we focus on illegal immigration is, okay, what are the records of the various candidates? And this is an issue on which there are stark differences. A majority of the men and women on this stage have previously and publicly embraced amnesty. I am the only candidate on this stage who has never supported amnesty and, in fact, who helped lead the fight to stop a massive amnesty plan in 2013 when Barack Obama and Harry Reid joined the Washington Republicans in a massive amnesty plan.
That was the House Freedom
Caucus. I stood
Caucus.
shoulder to shoulder with Jeff Sessions helping lead the fight. You know, folks here have talked about how do you secure
the only reason that failed was the House Freedom Caucus back then. Or I should say the origins of it, not the... Was it? I don't think it was 2013, though. But it was like the original people, the House Freedom Caucus. They killed it, not Ted Cruz. I mean, they were involved in it, but the House Freedom Caucus pretty much killed it.
Borders. Well, I've been leading the fight in the Senate to triple the Border Patrol, to put in place fencings and walls, to
yeah, the precursor of the House Freedom Caucus, but you get the point.
Put in place a strong biometric exit-entry system.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Rubio, I'm not sure exactly. We'll come back to you in 1 second, sir. Yeah. But Senator Rubio, I'm not sure exactly whose plan he's saying as constitutes amnesty, but I know he has said it about your plan in the past, so I want to give you a chance to respond. Then Dr. Carson will come to you.
Okay. Well, let me say that legal immigration is not an issue I read about in the newspaper. Immigration, illegal immigration, all the good aspects of immigration, and all the negative ones as well, I live with. My family's immigrants. My neighbors are all immigrants. My in-laws are all immigrants. So I've seen every aspect of it. And I can tell you America doesn't have one immigration problem, it has three. First, despite the fact that we are the most generous country in the history of the world on allowing people to come here legally, we have people still coming illegally. Second, we have a legal immigration system that no longer works. It primarily is built on the basis of whether or not you have a relative living here instead of merit. And third, we have 11 or 12 million people, many of whom have been here for longer than a decade, who are already here illegally. And we must deal with all three of these problems. We cannot deal with all three of these problems in one massive piece of legislation. I learned that. We tried it that way. Here's the way forward. First, we must secure our border, the physical border with the wall, absolutely, but we also need to have an entry-exit tracking system. 40% of the people who come here illegally come illegally, and then they overstay the visa. We also need a mandatory e-verify system. After we've done that, step two would be to modernize our legal immigration system. So you come to America on the basis of what you can contribute economically, not whether or not simply you have a relative living here. And after we've done those two things, I believe the American people will be very reasonable and responsible about what you do with someone who's been here and isn't a criminal. If you're a criminal, obviously you will not be able to stay.
Thank you, Senator. Dr. Carson, I want to give you 30 seconds. I'd like you to answer the question. Senator Cruz describes plans such as yours as amnesty. Why is your plan not amnesty?
My plan is not amnesty for a number of reasons. Number one, I've talked to farmers, and they said they cannot hire Americans to do the kind of job that I'm talking about.
Oh, boy.
And
Carson?
The second reason is because the individuals who register as guest workers, they don't get to vote, they are not American citizens, and they don't get the rights and privileges of American citizens. So that's key. But the other thing that I want to bring up is I mentioned something earlier, I think it was just sort of glossed over. I talked about the success in Yuma County. I mean, incredible success. And the Department of Justice said, no, we don't want to do that. That's too successful. We don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. All we have to do is look at things that work. All we have to do is use a little common sense.
Thank you, Dr. Carson. I want to talk about the issue of birthright citizenship, which has emerged since the first debate as a major issue in this campaign. Mr. Trump, you say that babies born in the United States to undocumented immigrants should not any longer get automatic American citizenship. Ms. Fiorina says that you are pandering on this issue and acting like the politicians that you rail against. What's your message to Ms. Fiorina on birthright citizenship?
Well, first of all, the 14th Amendment says very, very clearly to a lot of great legal scholars, not television scholars, but legal scholars, that it is wrong. It can be corrected with an act of Congress, probably doesn't even need that. A woman gets pregnant. She's 9 months. She walks across the border. She has the baby in the United States, and we take care of the baby for 85 years. I don't think so. And by the way, Mexico and almost every other country anywhere in the world doesn't have that. We're the only ones dumb enough, stupid enough to have it. And people, and by the way, this is not just with respect to Mexico. They're coming from Asia to have babies here, and all of a sudden we have to take care of the babies for the life of the baby. The 14th Amendment, it reads properly. You can go, and it's probably going to have to go through a process of court, probably ends up at the Supreme Court, but there are a lot of great legal scholars that say that is not correct.
And that's one thing I wish you did something
about. In my opinion, it makes absolutely no. We're the only one of the only countries. We're going to take care of those babies for 70, 75, 80, 90 years. I don't think so.
Ms. Fiorina, the vast majority of countries do not have birthright citizenship. Donald Trump is right about that. Why is it pandering when he says this?
First, let me say we have just spent a good bit of time discussing as Republicans how to solve this problem. I would ask your audience at home to ask a very basic question. Why have Democrats not solved this problem? President Obama campaigned in 2007 and 2008 on solving the immigration problem. He entered Washington with majorities in the House and the Senate. He could have chosen to do anything to solve this problem. Instead, he chose to do nothing. Why? Because the Democrats don't want this issue solved. They want it to be an issue that they can use. As to birthright citizenship, the truth is you can't just wave your hands and say the 14th Amendment is going to go away. It will take an extremely arduous vote in Congress, followed by 2/3 of the states. And if that doesn't work to amend the Constitution, then it is a long, arduous process in court. And meanwhile, What will continue to go on is what has gone on for 25 years. With all due respect, Mr. Trump, we have been talking about illegal immigration for 25 years. San Francisco has been a sanctuary city since 1989. There are 300 of them. And meanwhile, what has happened? Nothing. The border remains insecure. The legal immigration system remains broken.
Gosh.
Look, we know what it takes to secure a
What
border.
are
We've
you
heard a lot of
even
great ideas here.
talking about?
Money, manpower,
Thank you, Ms.
technology,
Fiorina.
mostly apparently leadership, the kind of leadership that understands how to get results.
Thank you, Ms. Fiorina. Mr. Trump, I want to give you a chance to respond.
100%, by the way, with Carly on the fact that the Democrats do not want to solve this problem for the obvious reasons, but they do not. But I believe that a reading of the 14th Amendment allows you to have an interpretation where this is not legal and where it can't be done. I've seen both sides, but some of the greatest scholars agree with me without having to go through Congress. If you do go through Congress, you can absolutely solve the problem.
Thank you, Mr. Trump.
You would
Senator Paul.
stipulate, Mr. Trump, that not everyone agrees with you.
That's true, sure.
Senator Paul, I
Okay.
want to bring you in. Where do you stand on the issue of birthright citizenship?
Well, I hate to say it, but Donald Trump has a bit of a point here. The case that was decided around 1900 was people had a green card, were here legally, and they said that their children were citizens. There's never been a direct Supreme Court case on people who are here illegally, whether or not their kids are citizens. So it hasn't really been completely adjudicated. The 14th Amendment says that those who are here and under the jurisdiction. The original author of the 14th Amendment said on the Senate floor that this was applying to slaves and did not specifically apply to others.
All right, Senator Paul, thank you so much. Let's turn to a new topic. We've received a lot of questions on social media
that's just
about the
common
economy
sense. I don't get
and
why
about
that's
jobs.
such a
We
big
have
issue.
two CEOs
Greatest
on stage
scholars.
right now. Ms. Fiorina, you were CEO
Another
of Hewlett
question to
Packard.
her?
Donald Trump says you, quote, ran HP into the ground. You laid off tens of thousands of people. You got viciously fired. For voters looking to somebody with private sector experience to create American jobs, why should they pick you and not Donald Trump?
I led Hewlett Packard through a very difficult time, the worst technology recession in 25 years.
gosh.
The NASDAQ stock index fell 80%. It took 15 years for the stock index to recover. We had very strong competitors who literally went out of business and lost all of their jobs in the process. Despite those difficult times, we doubled the size of the company. We quadrupled its top-line growth rate.
Hillary
We
Clinton.
quadrupled its cash flow. We tripled its rate of innovation. Yes, we had
Trump's
to make tough
face every
choices.
single time.
And in doing so, we saved 80,000 jobs, went on to grow to 160,000 jobs, and now
She is
Hewlett Packard
unironically
is
the worst, I
almost
agree.
300,000 jobs.
Nasty
We went
woman.
from lagging behind to leading in every product category and every market segment. We must lead
I'm a
in this
robot.
nation again,
I'm gonna
and some
become
tough
president.
calls
Beep,
are going to be required. But as for the firing, I have been very honest about this from the day it happened. When you challenge the status quo, you make enemies. I made a few. Steve Jobs told me that when he called me the day I was fired to say, hey, been there, done that twice. It's also true that the man that led my firing, Tom Perkins, just
Thank you,
took
Ms.
out a
Fiorina.
full-page ad in the New York Times to say he was wrong, I was right, I was a terrific CEO, the board was dysfunctional, and he thinks I will make a magnificent president
you,
of
Ms.
the United
Fiorina.
States.
I don't get why people
Mr.
should.
Trump, Mr. Trump, why would you be better at creating
Let me
jobs than
just-
Carly Fiorina?
Well, let me just explain. The head of the Yale Business School, Jeffrey Sonnenfeld, wrote a paper recently, one of the worst tenures for a CEO that he has ever seen, ranked one of the top 20 in the history of business. The company is a disaster and continues to be a disaster. They still haven't recovered. In fact, today on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, they fired another 25 or 30,000 people, saying we still haven't recovered from the catastrophe. When Carly says the revenues went up, that's because she bought Compaq. It was a terrible deal, and it really led to the destruction of the company. Now, one other company before that was Lucent. Carly was at Lucent before that. And Lucent turned out to be a catastrophe also. So I only say this. She can't run any of my companies. That I can
Yes,
tell
I can
you.
see
Ms.
that.
Fiorina, I want to give you a chance to respond.
Jeffrey Sonnenfeld.
Spend Sports Network for 2. Is she a Democrat? Basically.
Is a well-known Clintonite and honestly had it out for me from the moment that I arrived at Hewlett Packard. But honestly, Mr. Trump, I find it quite rich that you would talk about this. You know, there are a lot of us Americans who believe that we are
why
going
is she
to have
here? I
trouble
don't get why
someday
people
paying back
supported
the
her.
interest on our debt, because politicians have run up mountains of debt using other people's money. That is, in fact, precisely the way you ran your casinos. You ran up mountains of debt as well as losses using other
This is
people's
so
money,
boring.
and you were
Who
forced
thought
to
that
file
she
for
would've been a
bankruptcy.
great
Not
president?
once,
I never filed
not
for
twice,
bankruptcy.
4 times, a record 4 times. Why should we trust you
Mr.
to
Trump.
manage
Why?
the
It's very
finances
simple.
of this nation
I tell you,
any differently
I
than you
was
manage
running-
the finances
Charlie,
of your casinos?
Charlie,
Mr. Trump.
I made over $10 billion. I had a casino company. Caesars just filed for bankruptcy. Chris will tell you, it's not Chris's fault either. But almost everybody in Atlantic City is either in trouble or filed for maybe I'll blame Chris.
Well,
But Atlantic
Mr.
City
Trump
is a
also-
disaster. Wait a minute, Carly. Wait. I'll let you speak. Atlantic City is a disaster. And I did great in Atlantic City. I knew when to get out. My timing was great. And I got a lot of credit for it. Many of the great business people that you know, and Carl Icahn's going to work with me on making great deals for this country, but whether it's Carl or so many others that we read about all the time,
Thank you, Mr.
they
Trump.
have used the laws of the land, which are the
Thank you, Mr.
to
Trump.
make good
So
deals.
this is-
Governor Christie's name has been invoked. I'd like to give him the
Chaos.
30-second
Jake, listen,
opportunity.
while I'm as entertained as anyone by this personal back and forth about the history of Donald and Carly's career, for the 55-year-old construction worker out in that audience tonight who doesn't have a job, who can't fund his child's education, I got to tell you the truth. They could care less about your careers. They care about theirs. Let's start talking about that on this stage and stop playing the games.
Governor
Stop
Kasich,
playing, John, I'm not done yet, John.
A track record of leadership is not a game. It is the issue in this election.
Carly, listen, you can interrupt everybody else on the stage, you can't interrupt me. Okay? The fact is that we don't want to hear about your careers. Back and forth and volleying back and forth about who did well and who did poorly. You're both successful people. Congratulations. You know who's not successful? The middle class in this country who's getting plowed over by Barack
gotta
Obama
give Chris
and Hillary
Christie
Clinton.
this.
Let's start
He
talking
did-
about the O's issues tonight.
Chris Christie knew how to talk to some people back then, but now he's just cringe. But this is why people thought he should be the nominee in 2012. This is exactly why.
And stop this childish back and forth between the two of you.
Ms. Fiorina, I want to give you...
Jake.
Governor Kasich, I'm coming to you next, but Ms. Fiorina's name was mentioned, and I have to give her the opportunity to respond if she wants it.
Well, I thought
What
we
is
had been hearing quite a bit about...
Hold up. What was he drinking? That does not look like water.
Back and forth.
Wait a minute. Everybody else has bottles of water. What does he have?
Who did poorly? You're both successful people. Congratulations. You know who's not successful? The middle class in this country who's getting plowed over by Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. Let's start talking about the O's issues tonight and stop this childish back and forth between the two of you.
Ms. Fiorina, I want to give you...
Because everybody else has bottles of water. Look at this.
Jake.
Governor Kasich, I'm coming to you next, but Ms. Fiorina's name was mentioned, and I have to give her the opportunity to respond if she wants it.
Look at this. He just has a mug. Everybody else has bottles of water. I have not seen a single person with a mug. He's the only one with one. What if it's like booze? Yeah. It just looks weird because everybody else has bottles of water. Oh my gosh. Christie is drinking whiskey. I would laugh if that's what it was. Sure. It does, but just like everybody else has just water and he has coffee supposedly. It just looks so weird. Everybody else has just normal bottles of water. He has a mug with God knows what.
Well, I thought we had been hearing quite a bit about Governor Christie's record as governor. Actually, I think track records are very important. I completely agree that what's at stake here is the future of this nation and the future of every American. But I do think that a track record of leadership is vital because in the end, this election is about leadership. And let's talk about what leadership is. It's not about braggadocio. It is about challenging the status quo, solving problems, producing results, and the highest calling of leadership is to unlock potential in others.
No, she had a mug too.
Problems
Okay, she
have
did.
festered in
Oh, I
Washington
thought
for
it was
too
really
long,
Christie.
and the potential of this nation is being crushed.
Thank you, Ms. Fiorina. Governor Kasich, I want to come to you. I'm coming to you. I'm coming to you. Let me ask the question. You can use it at the time however you want.
I would have laughed if it was the
Donald
only
Trump
one.
says that the hedge fund guys are getting away with murder by paying a lower tax rate. He wants to raise the taxes of hedge fund managers, as does Governor Bush. Do you agree
No, I don't at this point in terms of changing the incentives for investment and risk-taking. But let's just stop for a second. There's one person on this stage that does have a record. I'm the only person on the stage and one of the few people in this country that led the effort as the chief architect of the last time we balanced the federal budget.
Who cares?
We also cut taxes. And when I left Washington in 2000, we had a $5 trillion surplus and the economy was booming.
What? A $5 trillion surplus? Bull. Excuse me? A $5 trillion surplus.
I'd spent 10 years of my life to get us to that point. Went out in the private sector. It was a great experience, and went into Ohio and took an $8 billion hole and turned it into a $2 billion surplus. We've had the largest amount of tax cuts of any sitting governor. We have grown well over 300,000 jobs. You see, I've done it in both places. I'm the only one here that's done it in both places. It took a lot to get us to a balanced budget. It was legitimate, it was real, and we negotiated it. A lot of what we're talking about here tonight is, I'm going to take this position and that position. You know what? At the end of the day, America's got to work. We got to figure out how we come together to deal with this, with our fiscal problems. Because when we deal with that, we create a stronger economy for everybody. People have a chance to rise. So, you know, when we think about how we make a choice, it's the person that lands that plane. It's not somebody that talks about it. It's about the person who's done it. And I've done it in both places.
If you talk with Reagan one more time,
people in the other party, and that's how we were successful, and that's how I will be president, using that experience to drive this country forward.
Governor Huckabee, I want to bring you in on the question of hedge fund managers and taxing them. You have said that you are bothered by the fact that hedge fund managers pay such a low tax rate and make 2,500 times what people who work for them make. Do you agree with what Donald Trump and Governor Bush have proposed, raising their tax rates?
I have a different idea. I think we ought to get rid of all the taxes on people who produce.
Huckabee main thing.
Why should we penalize
This is
productivity?
his main thing.
And it's why I am an unabashed supporter of the fair tax, which would be a tax on our consumption rather than a tax on our productivity. In other words, you're not going to tax anybody for what they earn, whether it's a worker who's working by the hour or whether it's a hedge fund manager. If they can produce something and bring capital and labor to create jobs, we need some jobs. And I think the fair tax makes more sense. Now, Jake, I've been listening to everybody on the stage, and there's a lot of back and forth about I'm the only one who's done this, the only one who's done that. I've done great things. We've all done great things or we wouldn't be on this stage. But it occurs to me as we're sitting here in the Reagan Library that most of us would like to pay tribute to a guy who, when he got elected, didn't get elected telling everybody how great he was. He got elected telling everybody how great the American people were, and he empowered them to live their dreams, which is what I'd love to see us do by no longer penalizing the people who are out there working, because they're taking a gut punch right now.
Thank you, Governor. Dr. Carson, you support scrapping the entire tax code and replacing it with a flat tax based on the principle of tithing from the Bible. If you make $10 billion, you pay $1 billion in taxes. If you make $10, you pay $1 in taxes. Donald Trump believes in progressive taxation. He says it's not right that rich people pay the same as the poor. Tell Donald Trump why his ideas on taxes are wrong.
Not yet.
It's all about America. You know, the people who say the guy who paid $1 billion because he had 10, he's still got $9 billion left. That's not fair. We need to take more of his money. That's called socialism. That doesn't work so well.
Carson,
what
no!
made America into
Please,
a great nation
I beg of
was
you.
the fact that we said, that guy just put in $1 billion. Let's create an environment that's even more conducive
Would you guys
to
still support
success,
the GOP if they
so that
became
next
social
year
liberal?
he can put in $2 billion.
I would just write in third party.
And that's the kind of thing that helps us to grow. We can't grow by continuing to take a piece of pie and dividing it and redistributing it. But I'm also looking at what Dr. Huck, but what.
Oh my gosh. VW Bear for 2. Somebody needs to do a Will Smith on Kasich. Yeah, I agree. Kasich just won't shut up. Who cares about a $5 trillion surplus 30 years ago? Define social liberal. I'm thinking like abortion. So.
Governor Huckabee talked about.
You don't want me operating on you, I assure you that.
The fair tax. Looking at both of them, and we're evaluating them both, and I'm talking to the American people. because one of the things we must recognize is that this country is of, for, and by the people. And it's really time that the government get out of the way and let the people be the ones who decide how they want to run their country.
Mr. Trump.
Let's see here. We should go back to Eisenhower's 90% tax rates. Those were always misleading. Yes, the top line was 90%, but they had ungodly amount of deductions and tax credits. That's why it's very misleading. They never really paid 90%. It was closer to like 30%. So,
what do you think of the flat? Yes. What do you think of the flat tax? Do you think it's fair?
Well, I think the thing about the flat tax, I know it very well, that I don't like is if you make $200 million a year, you pay 10%. You're paying very little relatively to somebody that's making $50,000 a year and has to hire H&R Block to do the rest because it's so complicated. One thing I'll say to Ben is that we've had a graduated tax system for many years, so it's not a socialistic thing. What I'd like to do is, and I'll be putting in the plan in about 2 weeks, and I think people are going to like it, it's a major reduction in taxes. It's a major reduction for the middle class.
It was a good tax
guys
plan,
won't like me as much as
Paul
they
Ryan
like me right
screwed
now.
it,
I know
but it was
them all,
pretty good overall.
but they'll pay more. I know people that are making a tremendous amount of money and paying virtually no tax, and I think it's unfair.
Thank you, Mr. Trump. Senator Paul.
I'm glad we're having a discussion about taxes because everybody laments that we lose jobs overseas. Well, yeah, our companies and our jobs are being chased overseas by a 70,000-page tax code. So that's why I've chosen to get rid of the whole thing and have one single rate, 14.5% for everybody, business and for corporate income.
Like,
and
I've always thought about this with flat tax rates. In my opinion, there should be a high standard deduction. You know, like, well, what's the poverty line? What's the line for poverty? Isn't it like 30,000? Let's see. Poverty line. It is 35,000 for a family. I gotta check single person. I am very curious about this. Like, it's 15,000 in Wisconsin, so it should be like 15,000 for the standard deduction. Then I would probably support it. That's my opinion.
Personal income, but we also get rid of the payroll tax, so the working class would get a tax break as well. So I think a flat tax, eliminating the tax code, getting rid of all the loopholes is the way to go, and it's the way we get America going again.
Governor Walker, I want to go to you.
Walker's
Dr. Carson wants to raise the federal minimum wage. You have called it a lame idea. Why is raising the federal minimum wage lame?
I said the best way to help people see their wages go up is to get them the education, the skills they need to take on careers that pay far more than minimum wage. And it's why we talk about it's all about jobs. You want to help people actually get jobs. It's why on that last question we're trying to jump in on taxes. To me, it's not just about taxes, cutting taxes. I've done as much as anybody. I've cut income taxes. I've cut property taxes. In fact, property taxes are lower today.
Oh,
in my
yeah,
state than they were
right.
before we took
They're
office.
still the
The
highest
real
in the
issue is about
country.
jobs. Ronald Reagan, our plan is based on the Ronald Reagan tax cuts of 1986. That brought about one of the longest sustained periods of economic growth in American history. All the things we should be talking about tonight are about how do we create jobs, helping people get the skills and the education qualifications they need to succeed. That's the way you help people create jobs. It's part of our larger plan to reform the tax code, to cut taxes, to put in place an education system that gives people the skills and education that they need, to put in place an all the above energy policy. But you start on day one with repealing Obamacare. I'm the only one on this stage who's actually got a plan, introduced an actual plan.
It should be a 20,000 standard deduction. Yeah, 20,000. That sounds about right. 25,000. And I think there should be a negative income tax. And if you don't know what it is, go look it up. In my opinion, it's one of the best things that Friedman ever created. In my opinion, that's the best way to replace welfare. Just use a negative income tax. Yeah, flat tax with a negative income tax. That's literally perfect. Just replace the welfare system with it. So essentially, if you make $0, like you make $0, you would automatically get. It's essentially a UBI, universal basic income, but it's not just everybody gets it. It's just if you're below a certain threshold, it encourages you to work. So look up Milton Friedman. Negative income tax. It's actually very interesting. I think it is a good idea.
To repeal Obamacare,
and it's actually cheaper than we're spending
I'll
right
send
now,
a bill up to Congress and to make sure they actually enact it.
Thank you, Governor.
I'm going to sign an order that makes the Congress live by the same rules as everybody else.
Thank you, Governor.
That will ensure they repeal
Dr.
Obamacare.
Carson, Governor Walker didn't really answer the question, but I'll let you respond. He called raising the federal minimum wage lame. What do you think of that?
Well, first of all, let me say what I actually said about raising the minimum wage. I was asked, should it be raised? I said, probably. or possibly. But what I added, which I think is the most important thing...
I would not call Friedman a socialist. He's far from it. He's not a socialist whatsoever. It's just a system to replace welfare.
As I said, we need to get both sides of this issue to sit down and talk about it, negotiate a reasonable minimum wage, and index that so that we never have to have this conversation again in the history of America. I think we also have to have 2 minimum wages, a starter and a sustaining, because how are young people ever going to get a job if you have such a high minimum wage that it makes it impractical to hire them?
Thank you, Dr. Carson. I want to now turn to Hugh. I want to turn to Hugh.
That issue, because you said I didn't answer, and I did. I said, to me, I think the real focus shouldn't be, Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, so how it would work is like if you make $0, you get like 12,000. If you get like, or something like that, it's like half the deductions, how it works. And then if you make like 12,000 a year, and let's say the deduction's 20,000, you get like 3,000 or something like that. It's a little bit different, but I think it's the best way to do it. Rap, wouldn't you support Scott Walker? I would, but he fell off in the presidential race. He absolutely blew it. I mean, I know Trump rose, but he should have won the nomination. I understand Trump and all, but yeah, it didn't end too pretty for him.
Talks about the minimum wage. That's her answer to grow the economy. The answer is to get people the skills and the education so they make far more than minimum wage. I don't want to argue about how low things are going to be. I want to talk about how do we lift everyone up in America. That's what Reagan talked about. It wasn't how bad things were. It was how to make it better for everyone. That's what we've done in Wisconsin. That's exactly what we do.
Let me bring in our partner from Salem Radio Network, Hugh Hewitt.
I'd like to talk about winning, because I think all of you are more qualified than former Secretary of State Clinton, and as were the people in the first debate. But there are different styles. And Carly Fiorina, Governor Kasich, you are conveniently located next to each other, and you have different styles. Governor Kasich, you've been on my show a lot. You refuse to attack Hillary Clinton. You just don't want to go there. You want to do the Up With People, Go Ohio campaign, and I like that. Carly Fiorina, I don't have to bring up the Secretary of State.
No.
You bring her up to a sponsor.
He was in charge of Goldwater's
Which one of you is
economic
wrong?
plan.
Governor Kasich?
Well, look, people still have to get to know me, so I want to spend my time talking about my experience reforming welfare, balancing budgets, cutting taxes, providing economic growth when I was in Washington,
on, dude.
turning Ohio
Nobody
around,
cares
$8 billion
about
in
this
the hole,
anymore.
$2 billion surplus,
Minimum
up over
wage based on
300,000
company
jobs,
profit.
big tax cuts.
I actually thought about that before.
Strengthening our credit. All those things matter.
But I just think
But
didn't Josh
as
Hawley
a young
propose
man,
that?
In my first
Minimum
election
wage
in
based on
1978,
corporations, I thought.
defeated an incumbent Democrat. I defeated an incumbent Democrat in 1982, running on the Reagan program. I was the only Republican in America to defeat an incumbent Democrat that year. And then when I won for election to governor, I was the first Republican to defeat an incumbent in 36 years, and the first person to have never run statewide, out of politics for 10 years, to beat an incumbent. That hadn't happened for 96 years. So we'll get to the point where we'll talk about...
Oh, we got some breaking news, actually. I know I'm pausing a lot, but I think we're starting to get to the point where we can just go for the Trump parts. So it's related to the debt limit. Breaking news. The House Rules Committee has voted 7-6 to advance the debt limit deal to the House floor. All Democrats voted no. So not a single... If one Republican voted no, this would have died in committee. Are you... I just... You can't be serious right now. So, yeah, apparently, they passed it through the House committee. So if one Republican voted no, it would have died. The good news is it seems like some Democrats are opposing it, so there's hope. Who's on the Rules Committee? Yeah. Boo! Boo! Who the F voted for it? Let's see here. People are asking, House Rules Committee. I gotta check. Yeah, I gotta see who it is on it. Tom Cole's the chair. Jim McGovern. Okay, that explains a lot. I gotta find it. Yeah, I'm asking for one. Primary them all. So, yeah, let me pull this up real quick. Let me pull this up. House Rule Committee. Vote debt. Okay, yeah, so CNN got an article about this already. I'm going to make sure everything's not suspicious. Yep, it's good. Okay. Wow, this is dumb. This is really dumb. House Speaker McCarthy secured a debt limit deal. Now he has secured its passage in the House with little room to air and looming threat to his speakership. In a win for McCarthy, the bill cleared a key hurdle Tuesday evening when the powerful House Rules Committee voted 7-6 to advance a debt ceiling bill to the floor. The bill will come to the floor Wednesday for a debate and final passage vote. We're going to do a live reaction to this. Screw it. Tomorrow, we're going live about this because this is freaking stupid. The Rules Committee vote has been highly anticipated due to the fact that some of the loudest conservative critics of the bill are members of the panel. The time frame to get this bill passed through both chambers of Congress and signing the law is extremely tight. Lawmakers are racing the clock to avert disaster. I wonder who's on it. I wonder who's on the committee. Let's see. Yeah, I gotta look this up. I gotta look up who's on the committee. Who the frick's on it? 118th Congress. Yeah, I gotta figure this out. I forgot who. I know Tom Cole's involved, which explains a lot, but... Yeah, so it's not looking too good. It's probably gonna pass. Okay, we're done with that, but we're gonna probably go live tomorrow about this. God darn it. You had one job.
Hillary Clinton or whoever the nominee is record. But right now, I want to give people a sense of hope, a sense of purpose, a sense of unity, a sense that we can do it. So, you know, with you at the end of the day...
Yeah, we're going to skip to anytime Trump speaks, because this is boring. Nope, we're going to skip that.
Senator Rubio said it was, quote, very concerning to him that in a recent interview you didn't seem to know the details about some of the enemies the U.S. faces. Rubio said, if you don't know the answers to those questions, you will not be able to serve as commander-in-chief. Please respond to Senator Rubio.
Well, I heard Hewitt, a nice man, he apologized because he actually said that we had a misunderstanding, and he said today that Donald Trump is maybe the best interview there is anywhere that he's ever done. Now, unless he was just saying that on CNN to be nice, but he did say that.
Oh, you're the best interview in America.
And we had a legitimate misunderstanding in terms of his pronunciation of a word, but I would say just, well, I think it was. And he actually said that. Did you say that?
I said radio makes an interesting thing.
Okay, so I will say this, though. You was giving me name after name, Arab name, and there are few people anywhere that would have known those names. I think he was reading them off a sheet. And frankly, I will have, and I told him, I will have the finest team that anybody's put together, and we will solve a lot of problems. You know,
which
right
committee
now,
passed the House?
They know a lot.
The House
look
Rules
at what's
Committee.
happening. The world is blowing up around us. We will have great teams and great people.
Senator
I hope that
Rubio?
answers
Yeah.
your question. I mean, you are in the Senate, but I hope that answers your question.
Well, it does, but then it's the following way. This is an important question. I think if you're running for president, these are important issues, because look around the world today. There is a lunatic in North Korea with dozens of nuclear weapons and a long-range rocket that can already hit the very place in which we stand tonight. The Chinese are rapidly expanding their military. They hack into our computers. They're building artificial islands in the South China Sea, the most important shipping lane in the world.
Collapse,
a gangster in Moscow is not just threatening Europe, he's threatening to destroy and divide NATO. You have radical jihadists in dozens of countries across multiple continents, and they even recruit Americans using social media to try to attack us here at home. And now we've got this horrible deal with Iran where a radical Shia cleric with an apocalyptic vision of the future is also guaranteed to one day possess nuclear weapons and also a long-range rocket that can hit the United States. These are extraordinarily dangerous times that we live in. And the next president of the United States better be someone that understands these issues and has good judgment about them. Because the number one issue that a president will ever confront, and the most important obligation that the federal government has, is to keep this nation safe. And today, we are not doing that. We are eviscerating our military, and we have a president that is more respectful to the Ayatollah in Iran than he is to the Prime Minister of Israel.
Mr. Trump, Senator Rubio seemed to be suggesting that you don't know information.
No, I don't think he's suggesting that at all. I mean,
Are you, Senator Rubio?
I don't think he's
well,
suggesting that.
that's why we have a debate. I think that we should have a deeper debate about these issues because there is no more important decision that a president will make.
But are you saying that you have the knowledge to be the president that Mr. Trump does not have?
Well, you should ask him questions in detail about the foreign policy issues our president will confront because you better be able to lead our country on the first day. Not 6 months from now, not a year from now. On the first day in office, our president could very well confront a national security crisis. You can't predict it. Sometimes you cannot control it. And it is the federal government does all kinds of things it's not supposed to be doing. It regulates bathrooms. It regulates schools that belong to local communities. But the one thing that the federal government must do, the one thing that only the federal government can do is keep us safe. And a president better be up to date on those issues on his first day in office, or on her first day in office.
Mr. Trump.
Well, you have to understand, I am not sitting in the United States Senate with, by the way, the worst voting record there is today, number one. I am not sitting in the United States Senate. I'm a businessman doing business transactions.
Okay.
I am doing business transactions. I will know more about this, and as you said, that was very acceptable. And when you listened to that whole interview, it was a great interview. You said it, I didn't.
Yeah,
well, now I did. But I will, listen, just 1 second.
But he addressed
just 1 second.
I never get addressed, so when I do, I'm going to jump in.
I will know more about the problems of this world by the time I sit. And you look at what's going on in this world right now by people that supposedly know this world is a mess.
Senator Rubio, he did invoke your absentee record in the Senate.
I'm proud to serve in the United States Senate. You know, when I ran 5 years ago, the entire leadership of my party in Washington lined up against me. But I'm glad I won, and I'm glad that I ran, because this country's headed in the wrong direction. And if we keep electing the same people, nothing is going to change. And you're right, I have missed some votes, and I'll tell you why, Mr. Trump. Because in my years in the Senate, I figured out very quickly that the political establishment in Washington, D.C., in both political parties, is completely out of touch with the lives of our people. You have millions of people in this country living paycheck to paycheck, and nothing's being done about it. We are about to leave our children with $18 trillion in debt, and they're about to raise the debt limit again. We have a world that grows increasingly dangerous, and we are eviscerating our military spending and signing deals with Iran. And if this thing continues, we are going to be the first Americans to leave our children worse off than ourselves. That's why I'm missing votes, because I am leaving the Senate, I'm not running for re-election, and I'm running for president.
Yeah,
because
that
I
aged
know
well.
this,
He ran
unless
for
we
2
have the
more
right
terms.
president, we cannot make America.
Is this weird to seem like Rubio sounds older now? Is this weird? He sounds different now. I don't know what it is, but let's see here. Rap, have you seen the Trump attack McCain? I saw that. I disagree with it, but Rubio sounds different now. I don't know what it is, but who knows?
Fulfill its potential, but with the right person in office, the 21st century can be the greatest era that our nation has ever known.
Thank you, Senator Rubio. I want to turn now to Hugh Hewitt.
Thank you, Jake. I've done a lot of great interviews with all of you, but Governor Bush, I talked to you in February about the biggest elephant in a room full of elephants, which is your last name. And you told me that you would not be burdened either by your brother or your father's legacy in the Middle East. And then a week later, you rolled out your list of foreign policy advisors, and it was a lot of the band getting back together again. So on behalf of the military that is watching, okay, the active duty military that are at the end of the spear, what kind of a commander-in-chief is Jeb Bush going to be, and who are the advisors that are new to your team?
Well, first of all, Hugh, if you're looking at Republican advisors, you have to go to the last 2 administrations that happen to be 41 and 43. So just by definition, if you're, and many of the people here that are seeking advice from the foreign policy experts in the Republican side, they served in my dad's administration, my brother's administration. Of course that's the case. But I'm my own man. I'm going to create a strategy that's based on the simple fact that the United States needs to lead the world. The first thing that we need to do is to stop the craziness of the sequester, rebuild our military so that we don't deploy people.
There's a difference between being involved when our interests are at risk than there is the, oh yes, we're gonna go invade Iran because there may be something here, there, or there. Just why?
And over again, without the necessary equipment to keep them safe, to send a signal to the world that we're serious. If we're going to lead the world, then we need to have the strongest military possible. We need to rebuild our counterintelligence and intelligence capabilities. We need to focus on the fact that the next president's going to start in 2017, not in 1990, 30 years ago, or when my brother started. The world is dramatically different. And I believe that we need to restore America's presence and leadership in the world. Name a country where our relationship is better today than it was the day that Barack Obama got elected president. Under Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, we have seen a weakness that now creates huge problems for the next president of the United States. So I'll have a team that will be following the doctrine that I
soon, and I'm meeting with people that are terrific people, but I have to say something because it's about judgment. I am the only person on this dais, the only person that fought very, very hard against us, and I wasn't a sitting politician, going into Iraq. Because I said going into Iraq, that was in 2003, you can check it out, I'll give you 25 different stories. In fact, a delegation was sent to my office to see me because I was so vocal about it. I'm a very militaristic person, but you have to know when to use the military. I'm the only person up here that fought against going into Iraq.
Hugh, can I make a response to that?
Just excuse me 1 second, Rand, if you don't mind, Rand. You know, you are on last, you do have your 1%. I would like, and I think it's very important. I think it's important because it's about judgment. It's about judgment. I didn't want to go into Iraq, and I fought it because what I said to you, was you're going to destabilize the Middle East, and that's what happened.
So
he's referred to me.
No, the first chance.
May I make a response?
Right after me, and I'll yield the floor. What do you guys say in the Senate when you're talking in debate? Safe. I don't know if you remember.
This is awful.
Donald,
this is so long. Why?
You remember the rubble? You remember the firefighter with his arms around it? He sent a clear signal that the United States would be strong and fight Islamic terrorism, and he did keep us safe.
I don't know. You feel safe right now? I don't feel so safe.
And that's because of Barack. That's because of Barack Obama. That's because of Barack Obama. We've had a president who called ISIS the JV Squad, Yemen a success story, Iran a place we can do business with.
Started
it. Obama made it worse, but Bush started it. It's because of Barack Obama. But here on that point though, whether we're talking about national security, foreign policy, or we're talking about domestic policy.
Or the collapse of the economy.
The key issue here is talking about leadership. Now, there's a lot of great people up here, and you've heard a lot of great ideas out there. But I would ask the American people, look at who's been tested. When there were 100,000 protesters in my capital, I didn't back down. When they issued death threats against me and threats against my family, I didn't back down. When they tried to recall me, I didn't back down. And when they made me one of their #1 targets last year, I didn't back down. Give me the chance to be your president.
Thank you, Governor.
I won't back down on any of these issues.
Senator Paul.
The remark was made that there hadn't been anyone else on the podium opposed to the Iraq War.
We're just going to the next
I've
Trump
made my
part.
career as being an opponent of the Iraq War. I was opposed to the Syrian war. I was opposed to arming people who are our enemies. Iran is now stronger because Hussein is gone. Hussein was the great bulwark and counterbalance to the Iranians. So when we complain about the Iranians, you need to remember.
Mr. Trump, you have said once or twice that you are really rich, and you are by far the richest person.
I'm just skipping ahead. We're getting done with this.
Chris
There's too
Christie
much
says
crap.
billionaires like you, and even people who make and earn far less, should no longer get Social Security, or at least there should be limits based on the income. You think he's wrong? And if so, why?
Speaking for myself, I'm okay with it. I think there is a certain truth to it. I know people that, frankly, it has no impact on their life whatsoever. There are many people. I would almost say leave it up to them, but I would be willing to check it off and say I will not get Social Security.
What about
I
for
do
the country
not.
as a policy?
As a policy, I would almost leave it up to the people. Don't forget, they pay in, and maybe they do well, and maybe some people want it. But the fact is that there are people that truly don't need it, and there are many people that do need it very, very badly. And I would be willing to write mine off 100%.
This is what makes Trump
So is a voluntary program a way to get the Social Security system solvent again, like that?
No, it's not. But when Donald did it, it's a good start. That's really good. No, listen. This is an issue that we've got to talk about, and we haven't talked about yet. 71% of all federal spending is on entitlements and debt service. When John Kennedy was elected president in 1960, it was 26%. Harvard and Dartmouth says that Social Security is going to go insolvent in 7 to 8 years. So what I say is very simple. We need to save this program for the good people out there who have paid into the system and need it. And if that means making sure that folks like Donald and many of us on this stage don't get it, that's the right thing to do, because here's what Hillary Clinton's going to want to do. She's going to want to put more money into a system that has already lied to us and stolen from us. This government doesn't need more money to make Social Security solvent. We need to be not paying out benefits to people who don't really need it. We need to protect the people whose Social Security means the difference between picking
Well, let me put it this way. There have been numerous studies, and they have not.
Okay, nope. No. We're skipping that part.
You know, she was one of 24 children, got married at age 13, had only a third grade
We're skipping
education,
some parts for obvious reasons.
Had to raise 2 sons by herself, refused to be a victim, wouldn't let us be victims, and has been the inspiration for many people.
Mr. Trump.
Well, because she's been sitting for 3 hours, I think my daughter Ivanka, who's right here. Other than that, we'll go with Rosa Parks. I like that.
Governor Bush.
I would go with Ronald Reagan's partner, Margaret Thatcher. Probably illegal, but what
Are
the heck?
you serious right now? Margaret Thatcher. Are you serious, Jeb? Thatcher of all people? A British citizen. Bro. I mean, this last hour is just useless. Oh, who should be on the $10 bill? Margaret Thatcher. I just can't. I mean, you can make an argument like Rosa Parks, but come on, a British citizen? Bro.
Since it's not going to happen. A strong leader is what we need in the White House, and she certainly was a strong leader that restored the United Kingdom to greatness.
Governor Walker.
First of all, I got to say to Carson and Huckabee, thanks a lot for making the rest of us look like chumps up here. But I put Clara Barton. I once worked for the American Red Cross. She was a great founder of the Red Cross.
Ms. Fiorina.
I wouldn't change the $10 bill or the $20 bill. I think, honestly, it's a gesture. I don't think it helps to change our history. What I would think is that we ought to recognize that women are not a special interest group. When women are the majority of this nation, we are half the potential of this nation.
You're pandering!
This nation.
5 seconds ago, we should not treat women as a special interest group. 5 seconds later, women are the majority. We must pander.
Will be better off when every woman has the opportunity to live the life she chooses.
We'll go open closing statements.
I think also that Ronald Reagan was a master at understanding that a pinnacle nation has to be a nation that leads. If we learn to
become president, we will do something really special. We will make this country greater than ever before. We'll have more jobs. We'll have more of everything. We were discussing
She's literally discounting
disease.
Hillary.
We were discussing
yeah,
all sorts
you're not
of things
too far
tonight,
from the truth.
many of which will just be words. It'll just pass on. I don't want to say politicians, all talk, no action. But a lot of what we talked about is words, and it'll be forgotten very quickly. If I'm president, many of the things that we discussed tonight will not be forgotten. We'll find solutions, and the world will respect us. They will respect us like never before, and it'll be actually a friendlier world. And I have to say, it's a great honor to be here tonight.
Good.
All right, we're done. The rest of these are just like Reagan. So that was pretty much 90% of the second debate for 2016. We skipped a lot of it because it was, who freaking cares about Reagan? Or there's certain parts I couldn't show on YouTube. And we showed, it's a long debate, but it was pretty fascinating. So anyways, folks, I think I'm going to head off. If you got any more super chats or whatever, questions, etc., send them now or forever go in peace. Opinion on Calvin Coolidge. Vastly underrated president. Should be given more respect. Ronald Reagan again. What time is the dead vote? I got to look that up, but you could probably expect us to stream tomorrow. We're going to stream. That's going to take a while, but should be a stream tomorrow because that's a pretty big vote. Pretty big vote. All right. Imagine what Trump will do to DeSantis. Yeah. Apparently DeSantis having a rally right now and it's not ending too well. Apparently, like, he's talking more nonsense than before. It's not great. I got to see it. Opinion on Polk. Pretty good president. DeSantis 2024 will be Jeb 2016. That seems like that's the case. See you tomorrow, Rep. It's Rap. It's not Rep. Red Eagle is a different channel. I'm Real American. But, yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed. This is a fun thing I want to keep doing throughout the cycle. I believe August is the first primary for this year. Somebody, don't quote me on it, but I believe it's August. It's going to be on Rumble. To be determined if Trump shows up. But yeah, tomorrow we should have a live reaction to the House debt ceiling vote. Should be interesting. What time you going live tomorrow? I'm guessing afternoon. That's what I'm guessing. DeSantis actually having a rally. Yeah, in Iowa, apparently it's not very energetic. It's like worse than the Twitter announcement, I guess. I gotta look into it. 20 people in DeSantis rally, old paid. Apparently there's like 300. So that's respectable for Iowa. Oh gosh, he's just gonna do the same thing. So apparently he's only gonna focus on DEI. DEI. It's like, okay, but how does that mean for me? But yeah, if nobody got any more super chats, send them now or forever go in peace. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the Twitter accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Well, I guess we're going to be doing a lot of reactions these next couple of months. This is going to be a grind. But yeah, see you guys in the next live stream or video. Godspeed to all of you.